I'm going to call our panelists to the stage, and we'll have a nice chat. A very nice chat. So as you walk to the stage, Muthoni, Justine, Michelle, Diane, Kujeni, have a seat, and I will introduce every single one of them. Although the brief I've been given, sidhani inatoshea, but we're gonna do the thing. All right, so here we have, like what, the spine, the backbone of Blankets and Wine. We have the head, we have the neck, we have the hands, you know, the toes as well, the knees, and the knees are strong and supple, and the spine. Yeah, thank you so much. I really, really, really cannot express my thanks and my love for Blankets and Wine and the team that brought it all together. So let me introduce them. We all know Muthoni, drama queen. Some people think it's drama, but it's actually drama queen because she's been drumming for a very long time, since high school. So Muthoni Drama Queen is a Kenyan genre-bending artist, creative entrepreneur, and system thinker. System thinker. Parallel to her international music career, MDQ is the founder and creative director of the groundbreaking Blankets and Wine Music Festival, as well as the Perform Music Incubator that is upskilling music professionals working in the music sector in Africa. She's a unique cultural thinker and builder working at the intersection of music, systems, and social transformation. MDQ is simply a force. Piga makofi tafadhali. Justine Wanjiko is a seasoned event production leader with over 15 years, over 16 years experience designing and delivering world-class experiences. A resourceful problem solver with a passion for exceptional audience journeys, she's built a career turning bold creative visions into operational success. She currently serves as head of festivals at Good Times Entertainment Limited, where she leads production of Blankets and Wine in Kenya and provides strategic and creative leadership to teams delivering editions outside Kenya. Justine plays a pivotal role in scaling the festival brand, strengthening operational systems, and developing the infrastructure required to grow the entertainment industry. Makofi kwa Justine. Michelle Njeri is the brand and marketing manager at Good Times Africa and Blankets and Wine, where she leads the development and execution of brand and marketing strategies that amplify the festival's cultural impact and lifestyle appeal. With a strong foundation in corporate brand management, Michelle brings a results-driven approach to creative storytelling, translating strategy into campaigns that deepen audience connection, elevate partner value, and strengthen the festival's position as a Pan-African live music and culture platform. Makofi kwa Michelle. Her work focuses on shaping impactful initiatives that celebrate the Blankets and Wine experience as a festival that embodies creativity, community, and contemporary African identity. And then finally, we have Diane Uaya. Nimesema? Vizuri, yes. She's the communication manager at Good Times Africa and in turn at Blankets and Wine, which is East Africa's premier music and lifestyle festival. With extensive experience in implementing corporate and social media strategies, she's utilized her media relations expertise to expand the festival's visibility across East Africa and internationally, driving increased attendance and brand partnerships. Her passion lies in crafting and inspiring digital campaigns that truly connect with audiences. With unwavering dedication, Diane brings the festival's vibrant stories to life, helping Blankets and Wine celebrate and uplift African music, art, and culture in ways that deeply resonate with communities both near and far. Makofi kwa Diane. Makofi for these wonderful women. Are you seeing what the team is made of? Yeah? Wamama. Huh? Wamama, oh yeah. All right, so as we get into things, we're going to have a conversation where we'll be taking an introspective and retrospective journey of Blankets and Wine. And we'll also be finding out today what is next for Blankets and Wine, what are the plans, what is happening as we go into Kenyan summer. Yeah? So here we go. Modoni, I'm pretty sure in high school or primary school, you weren't sitting and thinking, I'm going to be a festival producer. This is what I want to do with my life, and I'm going to call it Blankets and Wine. What is Blankets and Wine, and how did it come together?
Yeah, you're right. In the same high school where we were together, we did not knew that there was such this was in the cards, right? So my primary profession is music. I'm a musician. I sing, I rap, I play a set of traditional drums. And very early in my music career, I was othered by this space. And I kind of found a system that only had space for artists who sound a particular way, whose music was doing a particular thing. And I felt that I had to exist as an artist. And so then, if the space that is there doesn't accommodate you, you make your own space. And through the encouragement of friends and really people who believed in music, we built this platform, a space where artists, and especially artists who have been othered or who are not considered, can find a home for their music, and we can just sort of create a space where the audience and the artist can co-create the experience. As an artist, you have something to share, and as an audience, you have something to receive. The thing is, by the time we were getting into Blankets, we already, and by we, I mean myself and the other artists who were at that time sitting in this other box, so think Just a Band, Eric Wainaina, Sauti Sol. What we knew for a fact was when we played music to audiences, they liked it. And before you're an artist, you're first a fan of music. And that idea of creating a space for a joyous communion around music, where fans can just like drop your guard and you can sing with somebody who you don't know and you have never interacted with, but you're having this connection around this lyric that means so much to each of you. I thought it was something really sacred and worthwhile to dedicate my life to. And when the thing started, it really became clear to me that this is a service. We're providing a service for artists, we're providing a service for audience, people who need a day to suspend reality, to find and seek joy, to commune, to be in real life, to experience something. And I think there's another thing also around how we find things, like how do you discover things? At that time when we started, everything was so kind of radio driven or club driven. There were no third spaces for, like, if I'm not in the bar and if I don't listen to this radio sound, where will I find something that will inspire me? Where will I hear something new? Where will I experience something new? I remember very early making quite a call that this is a place where you can wear whatever you want, because also we belong to a space that is like it tells you what you should wear. It tells you how you should look. It tells you who is acceptable and who is not acceptable. So we're like, we want to use music to build a little paradise, actually. A place where you come, the thing that has brought you is music, the thing that you will celebrate is music, the thing that you will be immersed in is music, but bring your whole self, bring your fashion, bring your friends, bring your family, discover something new, share in that experience with somebody, and feel love. Just feel love, be loved on. Because also a lot of the spaces where music is created or shared in, they're not made to love you. They're not made to love artists. Actually, a lot of the places where music is played, music is this, it's like tier
Ambient
10,
sound.
right? They're places that are designed to extract money from your pocket and to numb you from your pain with, variations of things. And music is always kind of like the afterthought. And you can check it today wherever you go to your local. Just look at what have they thought about music? How is music actually meant to be presented? So we wanted to make a space where you can actually feel love, and so Blankets and Wine for us is all these things. It's now actually about vocation. All the time we're like, what's happening? Why are we still here? There's such a vocation to this work. There's such an intentional practice of love for the artists and for the city and for ourselves. Because also, I don't know, there's not a lot of things that allow us to dignify ourselves. We were not taught to love ourselves. We were not taught to love your music. You were not taught to love your local language. You were not taught to take great pride in who you are. You were not taught to try and to be audacious in your attempt to try. In Kenya, we are taught to succeed. Only succeed, only succeed. And you should be ashamed if you try and then it doesn't work. And that's not true. An artist's life is trying. You try 1,000 times before you get, one chord on the guitar right. And then you try 1,000 more times before that thing enters your brain. And so the art practice itself is a space of trying and a space of experimenting and a space of growing. And the art practice and the spiritual practice and the music practice are kind of all wrapped up into what Blankets and Wine is for me.
I mean, it's very evident. You live, breathe. MDQ, Blankets and Wine, it's the same thing, right? A lot of people have that conception.
No, it's not the same thing. It's really not the same thing. It's an extension of, but I put the same amount of care into that as I put into making, a piece of art. To me, it's the same creative energy, and it's for the same things. I'm interrogating the same things. How far can you go? What can you try? What can you experiment? How can this be better? How can you get clearer? It's the same thing, but it's not the same person. And certainly there's other people who have other opinions about what blankets is for them.
That's true. And I'll let everybody actually describe for themselves, because where I was going with the people say blankets and Modoni is the same thing. For me, it feels like it's something that you birthed, and it's a child who's grown, and you've allowed that child to just try all these things. Oh, Mom, I want to do this. You'll do it. And then the more things that grow, the more the child grows, you're just there also supporting and pouring into it. And it feels like the village that you have curated is also growing this child into such a powerful, powerful child and adult. Justine, you're very, very hands-on. You've been there for as long as Blankets and Wine can be remembered. Please tell us, to you, what is Blankets? What is Blankets and Wine?
I think I'll speak on the operation of blankets and what it stands and how it stands in the economy of the creative economy. When blankets runs, really, it's an ecosystem. It's an economic ecosystem for us, essentially. So from the artists that we book, the suppliers, the amount of money that runs when the festival runs, that there's jobs, there's food on the table for somebody. So when I think about it, I think about it as like a little ecosystem that runs on that one day with suppliers, vendors, small businesses. With our vendors, artists have hired their bands, stylists, makeup artists. It's really, that really for me that's what stands out in what we do, really. The support that what we struggle with every single day that we're trying to plan and we do really trickles down to so many people, and there's so much money that runs and supports, and really, that really speaks to what we push to do when we run it.
An ecosystem, an economic ecosystem, that for that one day that Blankets happens, there's lots of money that is flowing around, and it is ensuring that there's people who get to put food on their tables.
Yeah,
Thank you.
proves that culture is not just expression, or it really is a business. There is an industry, there's need to invest in it because there's actually money that can come out of it.
Yeah. Michelle?
All right, so I think for me, I'd take a different approach in responding to that question. I'm not as old as much of the team is to the to the group, so I'll respond from an outside point of view. So before I joined the team, Blankets would just be known for being a gig, an event. People would even call it a concert. But now when you're on the inside and you look at all the elements that go into it, you're thinking culture. What does culture mean? You're thinking there's food, there's experience, there's artists, there's putting together a festival, there's all these production elements. So for me, I feel like this is just a whole ecosystem that operates to create a space for people to experience fun, joy, and connection. So for me, I'd say Blankets is basically just a platform that creates a space for everybody to just experience joy. And joy just basically means, that whole mix of the music, the connections with people, lots of people get to meet the loves of their lives at the festival, So it's just a space where people can come and connect and enjoy and have joy together. So for me, that would be my picture of what Blankets is.
I love that. And it's so interesting you mentioned people come and meet the loves of their lives. I can tell you everybody I've dated just by virtue of the Blankets and Wine timeline. Tayana, I was with this guy, I remember. I remember this one at all of them, Mamba Village, Zote. And I'm sure there are people who met at Blankets and today they have a 15-year-old child. Yeah? Diane, what is Blankets and Wine to you?
Right. So for me, Blankets is just, as the brand, very intentional and passionate about community. Because for us, getting to these 16 years, we couldn't have done it without the community that continuously supports us. And so being able to create a space, as Mudoni had said, that's inclusive, like come as you are and meet, your tribe, meet your peeps. And also just the whole element of connecting offline. Because we're like in a digital era, like we're on socials and everything. But now here's this festival where you can come and intentionally meet people, interact with brands, discover new music, discover new products, and all of that. So for me, it's just the whole element of community, a space for people to come, enjoy, get that joy and happiness and just commune. So I would say that's what Blankets is for me.
And I think it's so important actually what you said about connecting offline because, even with my family, we live like 10 minutes away from each other, but sometimes we'll go a month, 2 months, we're not seeing each other, but because we're talking on WhatsApp and sending memes on Twitter and Instagram, we feel like we're seeing each other. So there's people who I know, if I go to Blankets, I will see them, which is such a wonderful thing, I think, to reflect on. Yeah. I'm going to mix up the questions a little bit just because we have somebody who needs to leave in about 10 minutes. So this is a question for Sandra, who is with the British Council, but she's also someone who was there from day one. And if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure you were hosting with Kule at Tayana, way back when. But this question is, to Sandra, the British Council has long been an ally in cultural exchange and a key player in the export of culture and creative economy development. So from your perspective, what role does the British Council see culture and creativity playing in shaping international collaboration today, particularly between Kenya and the UK? And I have to say, this is 2025 is the first year Blankets and Wine went to Bradford. I struggle with that word. I've been struggling. Bradford. Yeah, Blankets and Wine ilifika maju. Sandra, tell us.
So this microphone doesn't want to be on. So far. Okay. Hello, everybody. Hi. My name is Sandra Chege. I'm head of arts at the British Council, and I'm also the director of the UK Kenya season, which is on now, and is part of the collaboration that Blankets and Wine had this year in Bradford as part of the UK City of Culture. So I think the value of collaboration is endless. And the reason that we do the work that we do to facilitate these kinds of collaborations is because we recognize different elements of what has been mentioned by everyone on stage. There's a part there that is about community and othering that happens. There are often assumptions that people from elsewhere are just different, better, worse. You know, we come with our preloaded perceptions and stereotypes about the other, and once we get to experience each other through culture, a shift happens. It might be subtle, but it's there, and it changes how we think, and it changes how we view the world, and that's one of the values of collaborations like the one that we've had. It also has an impact on the economy, as Justine has mentioned. When we think about access to market, which is one of the things that we're very interested in at the British Council, is how do creatives find their audiences and their customers, wherever they might be in the world? How do you prepare for an international collaboration or opportunity and land softly through deliberate programming that is thoughtful, that is generous, that is about artistic integrity and practice, so that the artists also get to explore their craft and really think about why they're doing what they're doing and what it means to them personally, but also what it means to their communities. So there are very many different facets when we think about international collaboration, and I think that's why this partnership with Blankets and Wine has been really interesting, because there's also the additional question of shifting narratives of Kenya in the UK and the UK in Kenya. It was a wonderful, wonderful thing to see the kind of reception contemporary work from Kenya received in Bradford in September, because it's a rare event, primarily because just the thinking or the perception of what it means to do work abroad and collaborate with your peers there is a little alien. We don't have that level of integrated, collaborative practice from design to delivery often. So that is part of the joy of this kind of international collaboration, and I'm really excited to see Blankets do more in the future.
Hallelujah, yes. Thank you so much. And I think it's great to appreciate, even though sometimes it can feel like, okay, why do we need others to then come and tell us, actually, what you're doing is great, we'd like to support that. I think it's a beautiful thing to think of the collaborations that cut across borders, because at the end of the day, a musician in South Africa, in Algeria, in Bolivia, in the UK, the drive to create is the same. Whatever comes out could be different, it's different languages, but we all understand the language of music. So I think it's such a beautiful thing to see that such partnerships are so meaningful to spaces like these. Thank you so much. Now, 16 years. 16 years. I come from the time of Beats of the Season festival. I don't know if you remember that. And it seems to be the only festival I can remember. Then now after that came Sawa Sawa, and then Blankets. Kuna yenye nimesahau? I feel like everything else came after Blankets. 16 years, how do you keep something like Blankets and Wine going for 16 years, and you are stronger than ever, bigger than ever, you're still doing the thing, we've survived a global pandemic, and you're still going? How do you do it? How have you done it? And why have you kept going? Modoni.
Yeah, that's really a good question. And indeed, we did survive a global pandemic. Sometimes we forget that. Yeah, yeah, we forget that. Oh. So two things. The first one is our absolute commitment to the thing that we do which is platform music, platform work, platform work, platform work. Just figure it out. You just work through it. For sure. It is not money that has kept us going. It is not popularity. It is not potential. It's kind of just that devotion to the work, devotion to the mission. This work we do is mission for us. It's truly mission. And somebody's got to build the thing, and we are the man in the ring building the thing, so just continue, right? And the second part, I think, is because we've never deviated. The thing has always been three things. It's artistic programming, it's production, and it's community. It's those three things. What has happened over the years is, each pillar becomes deeper, wider, more people, but there is no deviation from the plan. It's artistic programming and having incredible integrity around that. It's production. It's just learning, figuring, doing, working within the confines of what we have and making the best, of what we have at every opportunity. And then it's just building out the community. And we've seen that grow because initially it was just our friends, and friends brought friends, and friends brought brands, and brands brought partners, partners brought media. It's just kind of that thing that, that's how I would say. Yeah.
And wait,
Yeah.
you said the how, but the why. Why is it why is it that we are sitting here saying we are also going to talk about what's coming next?
Yeah, because I think this is what I mean, the devotion to the work, because we deserve it. Because the artists deserve a platform that honors them and puts them first, and audiences deserve a platform to discover. In fact, I don't know if we can already see how, as human beings, we are kind of effed by the algorithmic world that's around us, right? The algorithms are deciding what you see, what you think, what your opinion about a particular topic is. The algorithm will pick a topic and make it that's the topic, that's the thing that we're talking about. There is going to be an ever-increasing need for spaces for human beings to interact in real life. Right now, if you're listening to music, like on one of your favorite platforms, honestly, you don't know what is AI music and what is human music. The idea of music, the thing that carried you when you were grieving your mom, you don't know if that song is a person or an algorithm. That's an insane thing. So just kind of understanding that we must hold space for human beings, and we must hold space for creativity. We must create a space for wow. The human spirit requires a moment of wow, a moment of wonder, a moment of freedom. Like whatever is going on in your life at that day, on the day called Blankets and Wine, you are allowed to suspend reality and just be present to that thing and to feel the energy of 5,000 people jamming to a DJ song that you've never had, that you didn't know, but actually even you're in the vibes. Yeah. Those things are spiritual. They're the essence of being a person. And music spaces are very much owned by corporations. And even some of your favorite artists are very much owned by corporations. And so somebody has got to make the space for music to be free, for imagination to be free, for human expression in its messiness, in its clumsiness, in its totality to be free. And Blankets and Wine is that space.
You have said, umenena, you have said. Because also, as you were talking, I was just thinking about once you enter, you go through ticketing, and then you've entered. Every time I get there, I start skipping. Yeah. Like, even the way I walk changes because it feels like I've come into a place where I can be human. Yeah. In a world that there's so much tech and so much internet, like we just on our phones and our devices, and it's so easy to go a month, especially if you don't go to an office, to be in your house and feel like you're still experiencing the world, but really, we slowly start chipping away at the thing that makes us human, which is just feeling and connecting with each other. So I think that's such a beautiful thing, yeah.
And I'm just going to say, I think one of the media folks we talked with earlier today was like, oh, That's beautiful. And I'd just like to just pay a big shout out to Linda, our producer, who did that. I don't know how to explain to you. You need to see beautiful things. This is why you need beautiful things. Your spirit needs beautiful things. And the system that we live in is designed to crush your spirit so that you can be a better worker or you can be a whatever, right? That's why we spend so much time like putting my things, my flowers, my lighting, my key thing that you can take photos at. Like even you can't explain what this key thing is, but it makes you feel good. And you need human beings to put that kind of love and care, and they're not pushing a brand. You know, there's no purpose of putting that flower thing except to make you feel, oh wow, that's it. Because wow is inspiration, and inspiration is God. That's you tapping into your God energy, and you need it. You need it so that you can survive in this space, and that commitment to that mission, and just knowing that like a place that was literally built by human beings for human beings, yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And, you know, case in point, please make sure to take pictures with that my flowers, the beautiful thing there, with the two lights there that will look like wings behind you. Please make sure to take pictures. There's merchandise for you to look at and purchase as well. So please, after this, there's food still there. Do the rounds and feel something. Also, I don't know if you've seen a barcode, a QR code for scanning. Have we had the QR code on screens today? If you see a QR code, scan it. Yes, because we will be taking questions after this. There will be a Q&A session, but it'll be easier for you to put in your questions there so that we can have them rolling in. Chop, chop. Justine, 16 years. How does the festival actually work? And how has it worked for 16 years? From year one, where we actually brought our own blankets and our own wine to sit on the ground and just relax. And as you were saying, you know, wear whatever you want. There's a blankets, I think I came in pajamas because I was just coming to lounge. And that is the space that, you know, you feel comfortable and you just come and enjoy. Justine, how does it work and how has it worked all this time?
So it's been an interesting journey because it's been a journey of learning, and you know, as much as you said, that feeling is the same feeling we want to express. So for us, we do it for ourselves and for you. So essentially, like as you're building and you're making these nice things, it's also for us to express, right, what our own creativity, and also for you to be able to experience that joy when you see that, right? And to be able to, you know, give systems for the artists and for audience, that connection, right? It's very few times that you'll be able to connect with your artists, right? So we really try to build a safe space for that to occur, right? So that you have the right things happening at the right time. So in the 16 years, it's been a lot of learning, and you know, and unfortunately, we've been learning as we're doing, you know. So that's the actual grace we hope that the audience gives us, and they have given us, right? So, and as I said, it's like we're making the thing that makes us happy. So if it works out, if it looks great, we're happy. If it doesn't work out, we're not happy. It's not that, you know, we do everything to make it work, right? Because we want it to look great. We want it to, as Madhoni mentioned, it's the mission that we've taken over. And it's ours to make sure it's our legacy, essentially. When everything ends, you know, and I'm not here, at least there's something that I left. And it's really important for us that it works, yeah.
And I think it's important, actually, to just give a good comparison. How many people showed up for the first Blankets and Wine? If I remember correctly, it must have been like, what, 40? 100. 100 people at the first Blankets at Tayana Gardens. Eh? And now we're talking tens of thousands. Tens of thousands. Shout out to DJ Delight, David, who sits on the board of advisors of Blankets and Wine. Work on a board of advisors, guys. But yeah, it's been fascinating to see the growth and the iteration. And I think that the thing that has, kind of struck me the most is how you're always taking feedback and going back to, okay, this worked, this didn't work, or let's try this out. I think you were the first event I went to that was cashless. Like you had to buy a wristband and then you put money on it. I think that was the first, and this was back in 2015, so that's 10 years ago. You've always been iterating. And I'm curious, what would you say has been some key turning points for you as you've continued to just bring Blankets and Wine to us?
Justine and I have been on the brand the longest. I think we could take that and we'll try and be quite quick with that. I think the Tayana years and the Hillcrest years, those were really the foundational years, right? Where we were saying we're testing something new, it doesn't exist on the market. Yes, you're going to pay to watch artists that you don't know that are not on the radio, and music costs, and welcome, and bring your picnic, and yes, you're sitting on the floor, and teaching people that you show up, and these Kenyan artists who are showing up, they're really good, and all you need to do is to show up. They've been good. The person who was meant to give them to you just kind of kept this artist, so here they are, and kind of building that, and for us also building a cadence around production. And then maybe Justine joined on the Mamba years, so maybe you can speak on the Mamba years, yeah.
So the Mamba years were our kind of growth years. I think that's when we really became a continental, like a Pan-African cultural connector. That's when we had actually our first major sponsor. Like now brands were noticing this is actually a space we can interact with, that there's audience. That's when we had a media partner, actually. That's the first time we had a media partner. When we started bringing artists from international artists that were not Kenyan. That was really our growth years. I think when we went to Mamba, then Carnival, the cadence of monthly, that was really tough-ish.
Yeah. In fact, I think it's at Carnival. The Carnival years and going into the waterfront years, those were the years where we were like a little bit lost. And a part of that being lost is because something that really happened that we hadn't anticipated to happen in those years when we started to import culture is that then the media's perception became who's coming. And it became about who is this international artist. And the platform was taken away from Kenyans, and it became about the artists who were coming. And audience members would then ask us, so who's coming, And it was a really, honestly, a very hurtful experience as people who was producing it would watch audience kind of talk over and ignore the Kenyan artists performing, or kind of imagine that these artists are here as curtain raisers for their South African peers. And it was, it was tough. So we just didn't love it anymore, and we didn't want to do it anymore. And the monthly cadence was terrible, and we were just like, we'll do when we want. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. We experimented with African Nouveau. We played with so much things. I think the Mamba years, we were also the first people to do online ticketing. We had to teach people how to do online ticketing. We had to teach people how to love themselves and to love Kenyan artists, and we had to learn how to do online ticketing. Then we had to learn how to be honest with ourselves. If it didn't feel good, it doesn't feel good, It doesn't feel good. And then now we have the Kasarani years, yeah.
I think in Kasarani's, then I think we found the love, I think after the pandemic, I guess also then that kind of helped us heal from our lost years of we do it, we don't do it, around between 2015, 2017 then. That allowed us to really think about what really is the purpose of the festival and what it does, and be able to integrate those two things where it does serve Kenyan artists and still it can serve international artists. For Kenyan audiences who want to watch international artists, that the space can serve both audiences and both artists from different levels. And we found a home there from 2022. and it's been great. I think so far it's been challenging and it's been interesting, I think, learning and new challenges that we hadn't experienced before, because as the festival grows, there are new demands on the production, on the artists, on the consumer. The consumer knows better what they want, so for us, and it remains still that we're still doing this for ourselves, because we also want that world-class experience. For me, I want to attend a festival that has this kind of world-class production, so we strive to hold that to be true for audience and for ourselves, so that's really ends up being I think that's where we are and where we are moving to.
Yeah.
I think that's actually what you've said about international artists and how the conversations kind of override us, right? And I think there was a time when Blankets had really grown from Mamba, where I remember it just was a sea of people at Mamba Village. And then you moved to Carnival, and then there was the 2-day Blankets, which happened to fall on my birthday, January 4th and 5th. And I remember just seeing Carnival full for 2 days, and Mafikizolo, I think, were the headliners. But then at that time, if you ask, nobody was asking who are the Kenyans playing. It was always just who's coming. And it's actually quite interesting, because I remember, well, still at Mamba Village, when Tandizwa came, and how she got intimidated by the crowd because she didn't know what Blankets and Wine was. And she was supposed to be the last artist to play. And she asked, hey, Stucky. Yeah. So Macadam became the closing artist, which was fantastic, amazing. I remember Zahara coming, playing, and crying because of seeing how many people had shown up and being surprised about that. So it's interesting as you talk about bringing artists in, but now that you've started taking Blankets out, not that it's new because you've been doing Kampala.
We've done Kampala, we did Kigali, we've and Bradford in the UK. Yeah.
And now Bradford. I have to say it slowly. But this brings me to my next question. You know, tourism and culture, they've always danced together, right? Like, they go together. If you're traveling somewhere and you want to go see the culture of that place, you come back having learned something, brought something about that culture. And the Kenya Tourist Board's presence at the UK edition of Blankets and Wine was such a powerful statement about Kenya's evolving tourism story. And from your perspective, how do cultural platforms like Blankets and Wine contribute to Kenya's brand story locally and internationally? And I'm gonna direct this first to Mercy, who's with us here from the Kenya Tourism Board, and then I'll have you guys answer as well.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Mercy from Kenya Tourism Board. First, I would like to take this moment to congratulate Blankets and Wine for creating such a powerful cultural platform that showcases Kenya's talent, spirit, and also their creativity as well. So from a tourism perspective, I would say Blankets and Wine are very key in telling the story for Kenya. So in this case, you position Kenya as a vibrant, experience-driven destination where travelers are able to come and connect with Kenyan's music, with the art, and also the people as well. And from there, henceforth, you extend tourism beyond the basic, we'll call them basic safaris and also the beach destinations. So you help to highlight Kenya's urban energy. You're able to highlight Kenya's creativity identity, in which people are able to experience that as well. And you also strengthen domestic tourism by encouraging Kenyans to come and travel and experience the cultural experience that's there as well. And also building on emotional connection internationally, which inspires people to come and experience Kenya's culture and much of its beauty. So during the Bradford Festival, you guys did an amazing job. And on behalf of Kenya Tourism Board, thank you for being such great ambassadors for Kenya's tourism and also cultural story. Thank you.
Makofi, thank you so much, Mercy. Thank you. I think it's true. Aside from blankets going outside, yes, you went to Kigali, you went to Kampala. I'd love to see blankets and wine in Josie. You know, you've gone to the UK. I'd love to see blankets and wine in LA. Eh? Yeah, I'm so excited. But what I heard about the previous blankets is that we had people traveling in from our neighboring countries to come and experience Thames. And yes, as much as the media and, you know, a lot of the people were excited about Thames, there were also people excited about Billy Black, about Flyer, you know, like, so it's not just about taking blankets out into the world. Kenyans have made a mark on this globe. And I've always, always, always believed that Kenya is more than our beautiful safaris and our beautiful beaches. I'd love to see people coming to Kenya. Why do we have to be the ones to go for Afropunk in Johannesburg? And then we come back and we're like, blankets would have been better. I'm not trying to hate, but like, you know. And there's a beauty in, maybe you guys were creating from what we need, not you were trying to be this festival from here or this festival from here. And you've made such an excellent, excellent platform, which people might not understand if they haven't experienced something outside of Kenya. And this is not to say that then the bar should be low. Excellence, I think, is something that you guys have maintained over the years. And that brings me to my next question. Like, you're here, it's been 16 years. What have been the challenges? Because surely, I'm sure there have been challenges. It's not just been, okay, yeah, we've put up the show as we do over and over, but there have been challenges and things that have stretched you, compressed you, fingered you, kanyagad you, but then also you still come out and you're like, we did it and we did a good thing. What have been some of those challenges? I'll start with you, Modoni, and this one is for all of you because I'm sure there's challenges in whatever sector, whatever category or whatever segment of blankets you're producing.
I think for me, the first time we had an artist no-show, many, many years ago, and Bilal was the headliner, and then Bilal just didn't catch his flight, and so he just didn't come. And I didn't know that an artist can miss their performance. I didn't actually know. You know, as an internationally touring artist myself, I literally did not realize you can miss your performance, and now it's Sunday morning and there's no artist. And kind of just feeling like the earth is going to collapse beneath you. And then imagine it didn't. I mean, it did in that moment, and then it didn't. And, you know, we had fulfilled our obligation to the artist, and so, you know, that was all them. And there was no way to fix it. The guy was coming from LA. There was no way to fix that. And so just kind of like, okay, so this is what crisis comms looks like. And okay, this is what it looks like to take it on the chin and to take people's disappointment on the chin and to know that you didn't cause this, but you're going to catch flack for it, and it is what it is, you know, and to be very comfortable in the discomfort in that moment, to survive that moment, to just be like, it's happening, and, you know, don't stop it. And then, okay, so now how do we lawyer up better? You know, the lesson from that being, how do you build some bulletproof artist contracts so that several years later, when, I think his name was DJ Sbu, the guy for Facebook, Facebook, and then he didn't show up. And the South Africa High Commission was the sponsor. It was actually a celebration of 20 years of, you know, the new South Africa. And then the guy didn't show up. Bro, his government really sued him, you know. And we're like, oh, okay, so now you learn. And yeah, I think that for me, that's a thing that truly shook me. Yeah.
Challenges. Challenges? What challenges have you faced?
I think I live in challenges. I think in production, my world is challenges. But I can think of, okay, there's weather challenges. I think there's a day we actually canceled blankets on the morning of because the venue was flooded. We woke up and It was full of water. We literally tried to squeegee water out of the...
Tungekuja swimming. There are some of us who love blankets so much. Tungekuja swimming in our
I
gumboots.
don't know. We were squeegeeing grass. You know what I mean? To try and get out a flood.
So it's like one of those ones, it's like, okay, it's calling that, like, this is not happening. Like, there's no way this can happen. And, understanding the repercussions of that and what that means and being able to move from there. There's actually even a day, I think Mamba years, I think one of the structure we had set up like as a stage, because of very strong wind, it literally flew off. And it's like, so we had some very interesting challenges that have really built I think one of the things that we do, we take feedback and we also learn from what we do every day. Like, every single thing that we try and we test that doesn't work, we are only trying to make it better for the next edition of the next edition. Like, there's literally things that we're trying to build for future editions and for this event industry. Like, let's say we have, the last edition we had like very long bar queues, right? But this is because we are literally trying to design a system that can help us keep digital stock of count of our stock, faster processes of payments, faster processes of alcohol, and you can be able to get your product quickly. But as we're building, we're also learning, and it's anything new. It has some places where like, oh, I didn't know what I didn't know, and that has dropped. So now I'm learning to make it better for the next one, right? So everything that we do, we really do to, the challenges make us better, I think. That's what I can say. And we take them and, implement the learnings and, plan for the next.
Yeah, and I think if there's a team that I know doesn't do anything and just says, it's okay, what can they do? You guys are always trying to make sure that every experience is excellent for everyone, not just the artists, but the ticket holders, your partners. Like, you're always just trying to make sure that everything works perfectly. But then, of course, it can never be perfect because life, right? Now, for somebody like you who's managing the brand, how would you describe those challenges, and how do you manage to still have glowing skin? You don't look like challenges. You look just, wow, like, yeah, tell us.
Patricia. So I think for me, the first thing I think is to just ensure that, number one, as a person, you're sober enough to see what is happening around, because then you can't be able to respond in a way that can kind of offer a solution to what problem you are seeing. So yes, personally, I can say I've really mastered the art of composure and now think strategically about what is going on, what is the problem that we have, and how can we fix it. So maybe now from a brand point of view, it's really just been about finding the balance between what are people saying, what are the grievances that they have experienced, and then where do we come in, even in terms of ownership and things like that. So for me, I can say the biggest challenge has been creating that balance. But then again, even as we do listen to our people, we have to strategically find a way of taking time to internalize what we are seeing, reading the room, and then now come back with a response that can now work for everybody who has been involved, because it's not just about us, it's about our attendees, it's about our partners, it's about other brands who are involved in this whole ecosystem. So I think it's really just about internalizing what feedback we are receiving, taking time to process it, and see now how can we come back and drive a narrative that can work for both us and the people who are involved. So really striking that balance is what I would call a challenge, because by the time you're having your own internal palpitations and your team palpitations, and then now, okay, what do we need to do, guys? Because whatever has happened, and now we need to fix it, because it's not just our brand at stake, it's the brand of all other stakeholders who are involved. So we really need to see how we can strike a balance, all right, and be truthful and honest about it. So that's just been one of the challenges that I can point out from a brand point of view.
And for you, Diane, as the person who is the custodian of how you communicate, how Blankets and Wine shares and communicates with like everybody outside, how do you mitigate, or how do you make sure that even in your communication and also in the feedback that you take in, how do you make sure that you still stay on track with this is what we want to say to you? How do you make sure that the community still stays not only attentive but engaged, and that people still trust that they can come to Blankets and be like, you know what, okay, that went like this, they acknowledged it, and I'll still come back because I know I'll have a good time. How do you hack that challenge?
Right. Thanks for that question, Patricia. So I think like from a comms perspective, the base is just first of all, for us as a brand, accountability and customer centricity. So everything that we do it with the customer or the attendee or the partner, the vendor in mind. So when we are thinking through crafting our comms, you know, like when things go wrong or even when things are right, that's usually what basically drives us. So what does the customer feel? What do they want to see? And then again, also a sense of empathy as well, which I think is very important. Like taking a step back, as Michelle had said, you know, taking a step back, retrospecting, thinking, looking, and then now seeing how to chart the way forward. And I would also say being very calm, right? Because again, it's a space that's, you know, very fast-paced, but with comms, you have to be very level-headed and very strategic in terms of what you're doing, right? And then also having that element of having a constant feedback loop. So we're always talking to our audience, trying to find out what we could do better and actually actively actioning those, you know, like in the future editions and stuff that we have. As a brand, we're very out there. So like we're always talking to our people. We're on socials, newsletter, offline as well, meeting with our partners, meeting with friends of the brand, just trying to see how, you know, we can actively continue to build this brand. Like I'd said in the beginning, we are a brand that's driven by community. So without our community, we wouldn't be here. So that's basically integrally what we focus on.
Yeah, and I have to say, comms, you guys do such a great job. Kama nimesahau date ya blankets, I know there's gonna be a text reminding me, and another text reminding me, and then another one. There's going to be Instagram, there's going to be email. Like, I think you do such a great job in making sure that, like, marketing messages often feel very salesy, but I see a message from Blankets and I'm like, ah, yes. And I also feel appreciation, like, thanks for reminding me because ningesahau, you know? So I think how you've managed to craft a brand is just a masterclass in branding, first of all, and communication, and not having the reputation of going back and forth with people who have grievances. It's more of, we've heard you, we've heard you, and not, we've heard you, and we're going to take time to do this. It's, we've heard you, this is what we are doing. Okay, thanks for telling us that getting Ubers like after the first Kasarani gig was hectic because, so now you have buses, you have pickup points, it's just a fantastic masterclass in just how people should respond. What are some narratives that bother you about Blankets? Now, from the outside looking in, whatever is coming back at you, what are some of the things that just irk you? Or, I mean, fungua roho yako leo, we are allowing you, it's a safe space, just tell us. How do you, what are some of the things that have kind of just...
So I'm going to take one. Dan, with permission, I'm going to take one. But there's currently like a narrative that that's kind of floating around in the ether that we are being sued. You're being sued. Yeah, that's not true. Yeah, that's absolutely not true. We actually, just like the rest of everyone, saw that there was somebody on Twitter saying that they had filed a complaint and to the competition authority, I believe. And so you wait to hear from the competition authority. If you've filed a complaint, then you wait to hear what the complaint is. And we haven't had what the complaint is, so our legal team reached out to the competition authority, and it's like, look, they receive thousands of vexatious claims. And so when you do make a complaint, you kind of have to back up your complaint, and they give you time to back up your complaint. I think it's 14 days or 30 days, something like that. Yesterday was a lapse of 30 days. So they don't have a full-on complaint, so there's no investigation and there's no suing. But I think what's pissing me off about this story is the intent, the actual intent. Because, and there's intent on multiple parts. The person who feels like, hey, I didn't get what I wanted, is very within their rights to do anything that they want. To seek redress, So you can't skip the person that you're complaining about and go to somebody else. That's a choice that you can make. But the person who then reports that story and creates this kind of perception that, they're being sued for millions and millions of shillings, and I wonder about the intent there. I wonder about the intent, and it kind of makes me, because I have no interest in back and forthing, also, as a journalist, you can run the story that you want to run. But there's something I find quite strange about that, our desire, our takedown culture. We want to take you down. We want you to suffer. We want to punish you. And I don't know if any of you read kind of the article, because I actually don't know the nature. We don't know the nature of the complaint. So if the article is to be believed, when you read through the nature of the complaint, like if you're pissed off that there's no network, as Kenyans, we know who owns network. So who would you be complaining about? Do you see what I'm saying, right? We know if there's a slow payment, of course it's a pain in the ass, we get it. And we deeply regret it, and it's terrible. And we work for months, and you bring in the right stakeholders, and the stakeholders actually provide the thing. It's not sufficient. Now you want to make a complaint. Who should that complaint be targeted to? And there's some of those narratives, and I think that's something that like Michelle was alluding to before, that like because you are the person who is putting everything together, you'll catch flack for things that are not yours, and then you'll also catch flack for the things that are ours. But the kind of the intent in the way the story was framed, and then there's the other part of the intent. So now when we go into places and people want to be like, Mathoni, how are you doing? How are you really doing? You guys are you okay? You guys are, hey, I've read you're being sued. Or, I hope you guys have lawyered up for the lawsuit. And I'm like, there's a gossipiness, there's a maliciousness, there's an ugliness that Kenyans have. And we see it. If you're a Kenyan, you cannot pretend that you don't have an inner hater. That's kind of our default settings. And I really mean that. And that's colonial legacy, and that's something that we don't really talk about. That's why you love Eliud Kipchoge when he's winning. And as soon as he's not winning, you're going to go and dunk on Eliud Kipchoge, right? As soon as somebody else passes, you're going to literally wake up to spend days insulting Kipchoge and calling Kipchoge's mom. I'm like, Kipchoge the goat? You know what I mean? There's an unkindness there. There's meanness. There's a high key. I don't know how to explain it, but you know it. If you're a Kenyan, don't pretend. You know it because you literally have to catch yourself being a hater. Right? You go somewhere and you catch yourself and you're like, is this warranted? Yeah, maybe my emotion is warranted. Is the way I'm speaking about this thing warranted? What is this intention to take down? And we have empathy. I think sometimes, and when we were looking at the situations, I'm like, yeah, when you've had not a good experience and maybe you feel really disempowered in that moment, you want justice, You want the thing to be fixed, but the thing can't actually be fixed. So your next best option is take it down. I want to take down this thing. And there's something there that I think we should assess. The short version is there is no lawsuit. To the best of our knowledge, there has been no notification from the competition authority. I would have been curious to know precisely how Blankets and Wine has acted in a way to hinder fair competition or competitive practices. So that narrative, I think that's really bothered me. And please, if you meet me, don't ask me about a lawsuit. If you want to show some empathy, say, hey, champ, it seems like you had a really hard production day. Keep going. Love it for you. If you want to talk to me about that, say that. Say that. Because I'm the man in the ring. I'm the man in the ring. We're the championship team going from game 6 to game 7. So if you want to say something, acknowledge us, I think.
I think what I'm hearing from you, and I am so glad you've just funguad your heart because, we want you to be okay. We love you. Please, we want to see you smiling. You're always smiling. We never want to see you stressed and but I think what we need is a culture of curiosity, right?
And care.
And care, because if we look at your track record, you have a track record that speaks for itself. And you've also shown in previous years that if something doesn't go right, you fix it, or you figure out a way to make sure it doesn't happen again. So your track record it speaks for itself, and for the narratives that come around, I think it would be important for all of us to just encourage each other to think, okay, if this happens and not just at Blankets and Wine, but anything that happens, somebody makes a mistake, somebody blunders, instead of just instantly, we knew it, we can just be like, okay, so what's happening here? Yeah. That wasn't cool. How can we help? Or what do you need to make it better? Or, I don't know if I trust you because that didn't feel too good. Yeah. I'll come back when I feel it doesn't have to be an extreme of bringing people down, I think is what I'm hearing from you, right? Justine, I know you wanted to say something. You were just like...
No, I think as the festival grows, the expectations are higher, right? And we want to be held accountable, but I think it's how you give us the feedback, right? If you don't give us feedback, structured feedback, we can't be able to do anything about it, right? If your experiences, and that's why we send a feedback form to ticket holders, we can't be arguing on social media about, oh, this went wrong, this went wrong. It's easier to fix it if you tell us this has just happened, and we can be able to tell you, okay, we can put a plan to fix this and this. As Madan said, some things go wrong that out of our control, right? We have a lot of people that we work with, that we bring in, who have certain areas that they run, and at the end of the day, it will just be, oh, this happened at Blankets. So we take that, but and also we need the feedback to be structured.
And I think accountability is something that you guys take. Things will go wrong, but you also come and say, we heard you. This went like this, we heard you. For the brand, Michelle, how do you handle the challenges? And does that affect the overall Blankets and Wine brand? Do you feel like the narratives have changed anything? Do they make it harder for you to remind people what the brand is? Or is the brand strong enough as you see it to withstand?
All right, so I think there's two things in that. Yes, we are a brand. We are esteemed. Like, people know Blankets, we've been there for this period of time, and there's a standard that has been set about the brand. There's an expectation, all right? So when something goes wrong, yes, people are bound to give their comments and their sentiments around it. And as Modoni was talking about it, how the feedback is given, Modoni and Justine, how the feedback is given and what the intent is about this feedback is what can either make or break a brand. Then again, also the team that is behind that, how do you receive this feedback? How do you interpret this feedback? All right, so from my point of view, I would say that yes, we are a strong brand. We have been there over time. And we are not about to shut down, guys. There's still going to be a Blankets in December. So yes, we are receiving this feedback, and we're really just being strategic about how we can position our brand in a way that is able to be received well, standing for who we are, reminding people about what we are about. And I think that's the reason that we have put together this session, so that we can come and unpack not just our legacy, who we are, why we started, and then now what is there for the future of the brand. So as a brand, we are still hatujatingizika. Tumeguzwa, but hatujatingizika. We're still there, and we're still working towards improving and enhancing the audience experience, because we are not here on our own. For our own. We are here for the audiences, for the sponsors, and all the other people who believe in us.
Now you see, like, it's raining. Why couldn't you guys not stop the rain? Because it's affecting the sound, guys. Like, blankets, you guys don't know how to, like, have an event with good sound without rain. Gosh.
We use our powers for Blankets Day.
I think I wanted to just kind of build on what Michelle said. I think another negative narrative, and I think maybe there's a question here around expectation, is instant gratification. That you've said this thing and therefore you want an instant response to the thing. I wonder, Michelle, if you can kind of, because we talked about this a lot, right? Because it's like, Justine just used the powers of blankets.
They took
Wonderful.
feedback and they fixed it. Wow,
They
well
took
done.
feedback. Wonderful.
Congratulations.
Yeah, because we were really talking about that, like, kind of what is that expectation? If somebody asks you for feedback, what is your expectation about a feedback loop, right? And yeah, I think so. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that. Yeah.
Just as you said, Mudhoni, I think we have a culture of, instant gratification. People want it now, now, now. So I have told you my problem, and I want you to give me an answer now. All right? So I feel like we need to kind of rewire ourselves. And for us as a team, we've really had to sit down and think, yes, people have their grievances. How are we going to respond about these grievances in a way that is offering the solution that they need? And even if we're not offering the solution, because we can't we can't respond to everything, we give a response that now kind of backs who we are and what we're able to do, what we're not able to do, and what that means. So in terms of responding to feedback, we take time. We receive your feedback, we sift through it, we see what is within our control, what is not within our control. How do we now package a response based off of what you have shared? We can't do this in one day. We can't do this in 2 days because, we have like thousands of people who come for the festival and thousands of people who do give their grievances and their feedback. So by the time we are receiving, reviewing, and finding out, okay, is this true? Is it not true? Was it on our part? Was it on somebody else's part? And then again, as a brand, even if it was not on our part, we cannot go and choma for other brands. Even if maybe one of our partners was supposed to have done something and they didn't do it, we still need to figure out, because we represent many other brands. So how can we come back and give a response that shows that we have heard you, we are looking into these things, and this is what we are planning to do about the things that are within our control. So it's not just a one-time thing. We really need to take our time, process it, and give out a response that has been thought out and is going to be, going to be actioned.
Yeah. So the perception that we responded to backlash personally has been really irritating. It's been really irritating because the feedback process was always going to be there for Tuesday. And on Tuesday, the feedback form went out. Then you need time to investigate. Some of the things that people write to us on the feedback, you're like, oh, if this actually happened, there's some things have liability. Some things need to be understood, So I think like a claim around sound, that was really interesting to read the feedback, depending on where you are. Like the folks at Ondra had the time of their life. The folks at one side of the thing. So by the time you troubleshoot that thing and have the internal audit and then make the commitment to the audience. So then when the audience comes back and is like, oh, you've only responded because of the backlash. Now is when you have responded. And we're like, so did you want a response? Why are you seeking to give feedback? This is why I'm going back to this question of intent. What really is your intent? What really is the intent, right? And I think there's something there because you asked about negative perceptions, and so I guess ninafungua roho. That's a terrible one. And maybe to manage that expectation for audience, we are never, ever, 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 ever gonna be an instant response like there are too many things at stake. There's other brands, there's other partners, we see the whole picture, and we actually have to audit the internal process. By the time we come back and say these are the 3 areas we're committing to, we understand how that happened and we understand how to fix that, and that's where the commitment is, right? And there may be 10 things. So we can't engage kind of in we can't have a knee-jerk reaction. And actually, you don't want a knee-jerk reaction. It's like if you go to the doctor and you say, hey, I'm feeling this thing and I'm feeling this thing, you don't want your doctor to have a knee-jerk response to you. You want them to be measured. You want them to take their time to test the thing, to run some hypothesis, and then to give you an answer that makes sense. That's actually what you want, right? So I think that's something that, like Michelle was saying, I think that's something we have to rewire a little bit in our approach to the things that we want. But we have empathy for the thing. We also see it because we work in we're just in a thing that's fundamentally dysfunctional. So we wake up and we scream at our legislators all day on Twitter, and then you scream at the thing, and kind of that's kind of the loop. And then the algorithm rewards you. And so now you live in this bubble where that's what seems to be true, that the way to get attention is to kind of do this badgering and this kind of like
release the statement immediately, and the
you know what I
statement
mean?
says a lot of
nothing
words,
because actually
but
it
there's
hasn't
no-
been investigated. It hasn't really been thoughtfully thought through, and the things that need to be understood. That's kind of a hurtful one. Honestly, to be quite honest, it's a hurtful experience. It's like, and I think another piece that people don't think about is by the time you are experiencing that problem, we've been experiencing that problem for how many hours and trying to fix it. It's kind of like, you know what I mean? Like if your guest enters your house and the pilau started burning like 1 hour ago, you've been trying to fix what's going to happen, what they're going to eat. So by the time they're experiencing hunger, you've been experiencing the pilau that burnt, how to fix the pilau. Okay, now I can't fix the pilau. I need to pivot to this other thing. So you've been experiencing it. And so kind of the reminder that nothing happens to the audience that isn't already happening to the production team. And in that sense, we are in the same community. This isn't an either or. Like nobody wakes up with the intention to frustrate you at a bar line that they're making money from. You know what I mean? Like that's not engineered. Where's the sense in that? Where would the sense be in that? So certainly, are you disappointed? Definitely. Do we take that on? 100%. Can that be fixed? That is exactly what we're working on, right? Because when it's fixed at Blankets, that thing is going to be fixed in other places, right? At least within our scene. And so kind of just having a much more realistic, I think, this is kind of where I'm going to come back to intent. What is this thing for in your head? What is this thing for? And how do we engage with each other in this thing that we are co-creating with one another, right? I think it's a negative story. Sorry, Diane. It's now your turn.
No, I told you it was a safe space because, you see, that's the thing. We never get to, as people who enjoy Blankets and Wine, we get to see the content that you guys put out, the engagement, the fun questionnaires and like the playlist that you put out. Like there's so much work that goes into it. But I guess also when people see you on the day and you have a smile on your face because you're not going to walk around frowning, you're also like, you carry the challenges well. You carry the challenges well, but I think it's important for people to also see not only the things that go wrong, but also what it causes you to feel, right? And to understand that at the end of the day, there's so much care in what you guys do to make sure it happens and it happens well, and you care about the audiences, you care about the artist experiences, you care about your partners to make sure that when you come to Blankets and you see something has changed and the stage moved to here, it's not because they're like, oh, for vibes. It's because they're like, okay, this feedback we got about this, let's try do it like this, it'll be better for, it's everything is based off of the give and take. And so I think it's important for everybody on this side to also understand that there's no divide. It's like, it's a very synergistic community and ecosystem that relies on every single person, including the ticket holder, including even the guys who are just picking up trash as the event is happening, you know? Every single thing. And the audiences who come and dance make Blankets what it is, you know? People who dress up and just on the day they just look, wow, today I'm wearing this because I can't wear it anywhere else. That one person plays a part in making Blankets what it is, right? And so I think it's important for people to understand that what you're saying is that this is a thing that we're in together. We're in it together, right? And this is going to lead to my last question. I think, Diane, you can kind of just tell us what your challenges are when it comes to the communication, not challenges, but like some of your pet peeves or how you handle some of those things. And then we'll finish with what the plan is moving forward as we enter the 17th year, as we get into Kenyan summer, and then we'll take some of your questions as well. So Diane.
Right, thanks Patricia. So I think one of the pet peeves I would mention would be the focus on headliners and the audience and like maybe media as well, just not acknowledging the very many ecosystems that contribute towards the festival. So there's the Onja Onja stage. We have 2 stages, one for live performances and the electronic music. We have the fantastic Onja Onja market. So it's a bit frustrating when all the comms you're just seeing is around who's the headliner? But like we've built this beautiful ecosystem for audience to come and experience all these different things. Again, like I talked about, Discover, Love, Share, which is one of our pillars. You know, there's an opportunity for you to come and interact and see all these things. So I think on our end as well, it's also just trying to see how to educate users, because like the festival is also scaling up. So we're getting new audience. So for people to just understand, we're not a concert, for starters. We are a festival, and a festival has all these many different elements and things that, you know, bring it to life and makes it work. Yeah, so I would say that for me, that's like the pet peeve, because we take so much time as production to think through all of these things, and then folks are just like thinking of the headliner, Thames. And we have all these fantastic Kenyan artists as well, you know, so yeah, so just a bit more being intentional on our end as well, just to see how to make that apparent to audience as we continue to grow and scale up as a festival. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so final question. 17. You're going to your 17th year. It's been 16 years. I finished high school when I was 16, so Blankets and Wine anamaliza high school. Sasa tunaingia university. What can we expect? What are you planning? What is exciting you about what's in the future? The artists, like what do you envision? What are we going to see at Blankets? What are we going to feel? What is just making you stronger? Like, yeah, we are going in stronger. Yeah. Who wants to start? I'm excited about Kenyan summer. You know, like I just know it's going to be...
Okay, so the Kenyan summer, that's the first thing to expect is a Kenyan summer.
What is Kenyan summer?
The Kenyan summer is our December edition of the festival. The ambition of the Kenyan summer is to bring people to Kenya. And a lot of that came from my own experiences. And when you tour, summer is kind of the biggest touring season. And there's a joy, there's a lightness, there's an endlessness of summer. And there's a hope. I don't know how to really, it's like joyful joy that's not ending. And we have our version of that in December, which is Sherehe. By the time we get to December, bro, you have survived Kenya. Like, there's a desire to kind of just like, woo, release and celebrate. We also need to talk about our dependence on alcohol to celebrate as Kenyans, but that's a conversation for another day. But for real, when we're building the Kenyan summer, we're like that feeling of endlessness, and at a festival where it's like, oh, maybe I only know 2 names out of 16 names on a program, to add to what Diane was saying. Honestly, it's actually, please allow me to do a small segue. Honestly, it's extremely, to me as an artist, it's extremely discouraging and extremely disappointing that 16 years later, the media focus would be, in fact, I think I read one article where it was like, Thames saved the day. I said, what are you talking about? Thames saved Flyer? Thames saved Wianubia? Thames saved Hiribai and Geddy and Paps and DJ Ivy and Miss Boone. Who did she save? Saved from what? And this is the artist in me, this is the philosopher in me. Your self-hatred shows when you decide that the thing that is of value and is of importance is the thing that is the outside. Let me tell you, that thing from outside is spectacular. We never bring in anything that is not at the highest level that it can be. Like Justin said, us, we want to see it here. Right? We have access to other places, but us, we want to see that thing here, and we work day and night to get that thing to be here. But we don't get that thing to be here at the expense of yourself. You cannot make yourself so small that the story is the mgeni. You really have to check yourself as that person who's writing that article, as that person who's going there on Twitter, as that person who's talking about like, yeah, the Kenyans were a nice afterthought. Yeah, the Kenyans they were nice, what did I read this morning? Yeah, they were nice warm-up acts. Warming up for who? It's a music festival. Every slot on the music festival is curated. Every artist has earned their space. Every artist came with their community of people. Your self-hatred as a Kenyan, you guys, we're not getting out of the quagmire we are in unless we take this thing deep. It shows in places like those, or when you're invisible, we have 2 stages. So, I don't know if you guys know, but Kenyan house music DJs, producers, singers, audiences have worked so hard to build a scene. Kenya is the 2nd largest house music scene in Africa. The music scene in England and in a lot of Europe is decaying and dying, and they're coming here. If you want a #1 record, you need a Kenyan artist on your song. Kenyan house music has produced music venues. The DJs own the venues. The Kodas, the Mass House, the Muses, the temples. Kenyan DJs and producers own the infrastructure. They own the record label. They own the master rights to the music that is globally trending. So much so that the festival built a 2nd stage called Ondra Ondra specifically to uplift, to spotlight, to share in, to celebrate the magic of this thing that is happening. And somebody comes to the festival and completely invisibles all of that because Thames. Your self-hatred is showing. And there's something that you have to sit with yourself as the person who's writing that thing, who never actually, because I can understand and respect, I went and I don't enjoy this music, I don't understand it, so I didn't think there was much to write about it. So the question becomes, yes, then who did you ask? Because the press releases go out, the artists go on the media rounds, we're incredibly proud. So what Diane is saying, so then we make decisions, segueing back to your question about the Kenyan summer. You will not be able to ignore Ondra Ondra in December. We promise you that we're bringing some African superstars onto that stage. We're working with the UK Kenya season to bring some stars. We're going to shine a light on that stage. That's a crazy thing to be ignoring. It's like ignoring Faith Kipyegon right now. She's the goat. What are you talking about? Ondra Ondra has some of the goats of Africa right now, and we have to clock in. Don't wait until Idris Elba's record label has come here and then now has put an artist and now they are performing. And we see that also. Oh, now when you see the artist performing at Coachella, then you're like, oh, so kumbe Idazizi is somebody. What are you talking about? He's the second highest streamed artist. What are you talking about? You're late to the party. And yeah, I'm going to be passionate about it because I'm an artist. I really cannot stomach it when you're invisible artists. Me personally, as me. I can't take it. When you invisible an artist's work, when you invisible their presence, when you round them off to your nearest headliner, when you take all that effort that has been put in, when you invisible all those audiences, when you invisible all those communities, so you can talk about this one narrative. Binyavanga Wainaina already told us the danger of a single narrative. Am I right? Was it Binyavanga? Chimamanda, the danger of a single narrative. The danger of a single narrative. Headliners are important. They're artists in their own right, like every artist on the program. Do not invisible an artist for your fave. You just like your person. But when you decide to tell the story, ask yourself the motivation of your story. Now, Thames performing in Kenya is such a coup. That's such a coup for the whole industry, guys. Thames doesn't perform on the continent. I think she did one show in March in South Africa. She hasn't even played a show at home. That kind of show that was produced can't just be produced anywhere. Kenya is such an integral, important part to the music story, right? So we bring in these headliners so that the spotlight can be on Kenya. That's the whole point. It's not the spotlight is on her. It's for the spotlight to be on us and all the things that we can do. The fact that you can actually meet the technical requirement, that you can actually meet the marketing campaign that is required, that you can meet the financial commitment to bring those kind of headliners to Kenya. And you don't need to believe me, just check. Just check why Kenya is never on the tour dates. Actually, why Africa is not, we're always clowning Beyonce, oh, world tour with no Africa. Yeah, bro, where is she going to perform? You know?
But I WhatsApped her today.
Personally to
I
ask
told
her,
her, by the way, babe.
It's enough.
Watch her.
So, I don't say that to be self-congratulatory. I say that because we are all on the same side of this conversation. All of us, the users, the artists, the stakeholders, everybody, the audience is on the same side. So maybe we can put down the pitchfork, ask them what you, and be like, yeah, actually there's an opportunity here. Are there things that the festival should operationally rise to 100%? The festival creates the standard. Even when you guys experience a good edition, us, we're always dying like, oh, it could have been better. This could have been better. This could have been better. We are always, it's like the thesis that never completes, you know? That's the artist's work. It's never done. The work is never done. So the idea with Kenyan Summer is to say, come to Kenya. People are going to Ghana. People are going, bro, have you been to Ghana? Please look at Nairobi, look at Ghana, then look at Nairobi again. And ask yourself why we are not making Nairobi the focal. This is part of the reason why we did this collaboration with the City of Culture, Bradford, and the Kenya Tourism Board and British Council, because the idea is to bring the spotlight to Kenya, get people to come to Kenya and to experience these things, this idea of a Kenyan summer. Our intention is that it would go beyond just Kenya, that there is a window that is called the Kenyan summer, during which concerts, festivals, parties, art shows, theater, fashion, there's an oversaturation and overabundance of all the things that make us good, cool, and worthy. And that we can be central to the narrative. Us, Kenyans, they come to us to acquire life. They come to us to acquire vibes. They come to us. They bring their dollars here. The dollars are spent on taxi drivers and on hair braiders and on people who are making clothes. And it's not just, in wildlife sanctuaries, so definitely some money should go there. You know what I mean? So that for us is really the thought around the Kenyan summer, that we're going to build a thing that once a year you congregate the world to Kenya. And then when they come, they stay, because actually we're the beginning of kind of that festival season. There's so many like festivals, house gigs, events, you know, so it's just kind of that thing that says, come this way, we are worthy. And also, back to my spiritual positioning, Kenya invented humanity. We literally are the cradle of humanity. Literally. Like literally, humans came from Kenya. There's something really profound about that story, and being able to use culture to get people to come and spotlight that thing, and for yourself who has survived the year to be like, awesome, bashment with Kenyans and other Africans and other people from all across the world who are here to celebrate my culture. They're dancing to my music. I'm the one who is setting the culture agenda. I'm the cool person. It is me as the Kenyan who has the source that everybody needs to tap into. So that's the purpose of the Kenyan summer. It's only going to grow from strength to strength. Expect a very strong spotlight on Ondra Ondra this time. If you didn't even know that there's a second stage at the festival, now find it. That's where the vibes is going to be. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be brilliant. There's going to be a very, very, very heavy Kenyan contingency on the program. Don't ask us about others. Ask about you, your people. Ask about your people. Love your people. And expect the things that we committed to doing, expect to see them. Expect at least, because there were so many things to do. We said we have priority areas, so expect that. Some of that is going to come with discomfort. You know what I mean? It was really interesting reading like our VIP feedback, because we're like, actually, we had never intended to build a VIP. Us guys had made Soft Life, which was for our family and friends. And okay, now you want a proper VIP, so it's going to be a VIP, and it's going to cost like a VIP. And some of you are going to realize, oh, I actually can't be in VIP because the cost is going to be prohibitive. And accept that discomfort. You know what I'm saying, right? It's growth. 17 is gonna be uncomfortable as hell for us internally, trying to get to our own standard. It's gonna be uncomfortable for some partners. It's gonna be uncomfortable for some audience. But that's also 17. That's literally the year 17, when you're kind of transitioning out of, kind of being a kid and kind of starting to acquire kind of your adult mind. Yeah. Justine, I don't know if you want to say something for production. I've really overtalked, I know.
But I'm going to say that what you mean is that internally, you guys are not just saying, Kenyan summer is not going to be breezy.
No,
you guys are like,
not.
okay, we're growing. It's like,
yeah,
it's a growth spurt. So for you guys, it's going to take some, but then the intention is just to make it an excellent event. Yeah. Right? And that's just the nature of growth. Discomfort comes with growth. And so it's not that you're saying, for us, the ticket holders, the concert goers, it's going to be uncomfortable for you. No, it's you guys are saying, yeah, but you're willing.
Yeah.
You're willing to always take this on. Justine?
I don't know if there's much to add, but I think, the audience deserves a world-class experience, and we're very committed to making sure, in the scale that we can, because also, we work in the infrastructure that we can, So we're only able to do as much as we can, and the commitment is to ensure in the areas that we can control, we'll make sure that things are working. And as we start 17, it's, I think, as Bodoni said, it's kind of at the beginning of festivals, events, like Blankets was the first one. So, we have to set the standard so that then the industry itself grows. So we are committed to that.
And you've set standards because, I think I've attended things outside of here, and then I come back and I'm like, Modoni, you should go teach them, because I think, and these places where the VIP ticket is $400 for one, and then you just sit on a bench, because there are no seats. And like it's you guys are setting the standard, and I think a lot of that is it's coming from your standard is not based on other people's. We're standing up against our own standards. We are standing against our standards. Michelle, thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think for me, what I can add on top of what Modoni and Justin have talked about is really creating a festival where we are meeting needs of our audiences. We're not just doing it for us. As we had mentioned earlier, we're really looking into feedback and how to respond to that and how to enhance the experience that we're offering. So beyond that, again, 17 is not just Kenyan summer. We also have now years to come. And we're trying to see how we can position the festival, or rather position Kenya as a festival destination, right? So same way guys go abroad, book tickets for festival 3 months in advance, 6 months in advance to attend a festival out there. We also want to make Kenya a destination where people are coming for festivals. So of course that would mean a lot of thought into how we're curating the festival, how we're enhancing our experiences and things like that. So we do have a lot of work to do because standards have been set, people have expectations. So kazi kwetu in terms of how to amplify all of this to create a great world-class experience for our people.
And before we get to Diane, I've just gotten a brilliant idea. And in true Kenyan fashion, I'm going to tell you what you should do. Now, you see these last blankets? There was a team that was around, yeah? And they were around for a short time. And they're not from here. That Sunday morning, they went to the national park. Waliamka kwenda national park. Then they'd been told, Patricia Ndiole Demwa, Kenyan brands and shopping, and they wanted to go shopping. So of course they're calling me, they're like, okay, we're leaving the national park now. Where can we go? Where's Masai Market? I was like, you can go to Masai Market, but you can go to Blankets because there's like a whole market of fashion brands and jewelry and like all these cool things. And then there's food, so you can eat there. And then you'll also get to enjoy like some really dope Kenyan artists. So you're getting like magical Kenya, but like all of the magic. So you guys should start Good Times Safaris so that you curate like Blankets and Wine and Lions, or, I think, yeah, we can talk Kando. Yeah, Diane. Tell us, since you're the comms person, I know you've really, you know what to tell us about what's coming next. Not just for Kenyan summer, but into your 17th year and beyond.
Yeah, so from a comms perspective and a bit on brand, because I feel like they overlap, we're really focused and intentional on growing our media assets as a brand. So owned media, again, like what we've been talking about like earlier on, algorithms and how all these platforms are changing. So we want to be very intentional about establishing ourselves as a knowledge hub for all things festival culture, music. So expect to see a lot more of that. So we're going to be doing a lot of podcasts, a lot of really dope content, to just plug guys in to understand, especially as we had mentioned, we're going to be having a really hot lineup in December. So again, our pillars, discover, love, share. So we're going to be using these media assets that we're developing just to educate folks around who's gonna be coming. And just in terms of looking into the future with these media assets, again, helping us export our talent. We've already done Bradford. There's so many other regions we want to conquer, and we want to do that very strategically with our media. So that's what we are working on. So if you're not following us, please follow us on our socials. It's Blankets and Wine everywhere. Yes, kuna vitu tamu zinakuja. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So just so you know, Blankets and Wine across all media, follow, share, because the content that they create and everything that they communicate is also just looks so cool. It's so easy to retweet, to repost, because the content is amazing. Just know that they're coming from a place of care. They care about what they do, and they care about what we as Kenyans get to experience, because it reminds us to be human at the core of it. You have one day where you can just go, you do a somersault, it's fine. Hata kama haujui. We're going to take questions now. Do we have any questions? Yeah, do we have a mic? Okay. Yeah, if you have a question, just put your hand up for me as I see where the mic is going so that I'll know where next to. Hello, you look so beautiful. Earrings are stunning, head wrap.
Yes?
Wow.
Okay, thank you. I was born like this.
You were born like that.
Yeah, I came out like this. My name is Thabiti. I'm a filmmaker. I have two things to say. One is to just thank you for Onja Onja. I am a certified Onja Onja babe. And oh my gosh, I think it's a very important space. I think I almost cried during the last edition. I watched the DJs just turn the crowd into one body, and it was a very beautiful thing to experience. And what you're saying about Kenyans needing to work on their self-hatred, internalized self-hatred. Onja Onja is one of those things that just show us that Kenyan cool is enough, and we see it through the entire lineup we had on the past edition. I was there from beginning to the end. In fact, for me, Onja Onja is stage number one. The other one is the one I go to see when the DJs are on a break or something. So thank you so much for Onja Onja. You are celebrating the growing Kenyan electronic music identity, not just electronic music, but alternative sound as well. It's beautiful to see. And then Blankets as well. There's people like me who were babies when Blankets began. I was 5 years old when Blankets began. So I think if you need a human representation of how the festival has grown, Thabiti is the girl to look at. And then number two, Mudhoni. This is to Mudhoni. Let me say, your mind was a birth canal for Blankets. It's beautiful to see what the human mind can do. If you were, because this is a growing entity, yeah? It's gonna be here after us. What principles would you want to never change, even long after you're gone? And also in terms of electronic music, because it's also something that's growing. I watched people discover, love, and then share it. I'm expecting to see a lot more people on the Onja Onja stage because walijua hapo ndo bashi iko. So what principles would you want to never ever change, even when you're not around, when neither of you is around? Thank you.
So first, thank you so much for that. Yeah, I truly agree with you about Onja Onja. I got the Onja Onja bag last April. We had one of those production crises. We had to move an artist from this stage to the other stage, and then I caught the Onja Onja bag, and I was like, I get it. So totally. If you've not done Onja Onja, now you know. The business has 4 foundational values. Number 1, imagination, to be really imaginative, to think about a thing and then to test it, to iterate it, to build upon, right? So like a good example where like network's gonna be a problem. We can work with network owners, and then we also understand the limitations of it. So maybe let's have an online order system so that you can pre-buy. That's from imagination. We haven't seen that. We're not trying to be somebody else. We're just like, yeah, could we make it easier for people to get their thing? Now, did it have its problems? 100,000%. So what do? You don't kill the baby. You go and ask, how can you make this smoother? So you iterate, so you build upon. So you think, okay, so you track the problem the whole way through, then you build the 2.0 of that order system. And you just keep building and building and building. Because we've been here long enough to know the things that start at Blankets, once they are mass adopted at Blankets, they become culture. They just filter into the market. It's just what happens when you're the firstborn. It's not because we're better than anybody. It's just, you're just the firstborn. So you do it, so then it becomes easier for other people to do. Or you figure out a bus system, which becomes a real revenue center. And so you demystify it for everybody else who's trying to do a gig, whether they're doing it for 2 people or 5 people. You remove this tyranny of the bar owners, and they can understand how the bar system works, and now they can make money from the bar. So imagination, number 1. Creativity, number 2. Just like, I don't know, make a thing. Like Justine's Pinterest, just make this thing. It's just creativity. It's central to the human spirit, and we think it's actually the hand of God. And to keep that connection between ourselves and the actual self, our higher self. So creativity. Accountability, number 3. There's no running away from it. When you're trying things, you've got to be accountable. But the first person you're accountable for is internally. Before it is the audience's problem. Ask internally, what was the thinking? What happened? Why didn't it happen? Who owned the task? So we have that culture. We actually have an accountability meeting in our office every Monday. Kind of you think through your things, and then you kind of say accountability as practice. And it becomes easier to take, but it's also the attitude of a champ, right? You're not going to be LeBron James, or, you're not going to be the greatest if you're not able to sit with your mess and do the things, feel the sadness, do the pity party, but really actually understand what happened, and then have the imagination how you could fix, that thing, and then user first. That's our 4th one. User first. Everything. So we think of users. Because the person who was coming to pick you up in a taxi to take you home, that's a user of the festival. The person who has to clean the toilet at the festival, that's a user of the festival. So where's the water? Where's their water source so that they can clean? How do they get to the water? When they get the water, how do they replenish the water? That's a user of the festival. They didn't pay for a ticket, but they're using the festival. You're thinking about the person who is running the bar service, the actual waiter, who is at the festival working. So where do they eat lunch, and where do they go to the toilet, right? So that they can continue serving you, but even them, they have to go pee, right? So user first. And for us, it's really critical that the internal user, we're always talking about this in the organization, the internal user is actually the first user of the thing. Before it has met an external user, before it has met a ticket holder or an artist or a sponsor or a partner, before it has met that person, it met the internal user. The internal it's like, this thing is the matrix. It's like there's the internal layer, and when the internal layer works, you as the external layer should never even know what's happening. You just see a clean place. You just see a clean toilet. You just see a smooth bar service, right? So those 4 things are fundamental to us. That's Modoni music. That's our way. That's our behavior. That's our value system. At Good Times, it's the value system. At Perform, it's the value system that you have to adopt when you work with us. And we think that even when we are not here, even when we have exited the business, or when the business is, an ongoing concern, years after we've left and the thing is still happening, we hope that the people who come will build upon that value system, so that they can build whatever is going to be necessary for that time. Yeah, I got it, okay.
Wow, I think that's to speak about values, and not even just like the other things, but to speak about values as the thing that like you'd like to withstand. I think that's such a beautiful thing. Any other questions?
Hello? Oh, sorry. Hi, my name is Thomas Rajula. I'm from Nation. Mine is not a question. Mine is actually to big you up, Mudoni. I just came from Lagos last week from the Creation Africa Forum, and the director, Elizabeth Gomez, actually said it was supposed to be done in Kenya, and part of her inspiration to like have it here was because of you and what you've done with, blankets, and also because, also because you run a all-female team, and she does the same. And she said about how she came back, I think, in like February or something, and you guys got to talk about, and she just got to look around Nairobi. And that goes to you talking about selling Kenyan outside there. And I know there's been a lot of things that happened, but you guys do a good thing. So mine was just that.
Do we have anybody? Yes. What? This is your time. Fungua roho, ask your questions, say whatever you want to say. Today is the day.
Hi, everyone. I'm Judishila Mogo, Director of Content, Pulse East Africa. And one thing, Modhoni, it's a journey. And this year we have the 5th edition of the Pulse Influencer Awards. For the ones who know, it's not easy. And one thing I want to tell you, Modhoni, it's an encouragement because I have a story to tell today. I was a very junior camera woman for Blankets back in 2014. And for the first time, I enjoyed Blankets not as a crew person in 2022. And most people do not understand what it takes to plan an event, a festival. So keep on pushing, keep on going. And one thing to Kenyans in this room, we need to have so much of positivity. I feel there's so much of negative vibes, it's true. I think we need a positive vibe campaign in Kenya before close of the year because building a brand, it's not easy. And I feel we are not embracing what we are building, we are fighting each other. And we have a team in Uganda that embraces Blankets and Wine. And that is one thing that has kept me going, knowing that it's a Kenyan brand, but it's moving so fast. So Mudhoni, you're doing a good job. And I'm going to give you so much hugs behind the scene. And also your team, they're doing such a good job. So positive vibes, Kenyans, please. Thank you.
Amen, amen, amen.
Hi, everyone. My name is Agnes. I was a partner to the last edition of Blankets and Wine, and I've just felt compelled to take the mic to thank Justine. She was amazing. As a partner, I felt so supported. I know I was calling for extra tickets. She made that happen. She made sure my colleagues who were flying in from outside just to watch how the experience is as partners were well sorted, well taken care of. I remember speaking to Michelle, sending my ads last minute. She made it happen. So I'm just giving testimonies of the last edition. Also, it was like such an amazing, so great support from the Blankets team as a partner. Comms came through, made sure we did some comms around We Are Nubia, because they were the artists who were spotlighting, and also some comms around Thames, just to share data on Thames listenership here. And I felt so supported, honestly. Mudhoni, I'm also called Agnes, like you. And every Agnes I've met in this industry is dope. And you're really dope. I love how you fix problems. You always try to make the editions better. This was my first time attending Blankets as a partner, so I was there panicking when things were going south. But the other times I've also attended as an attendee. I'm always just there for vibes. And it doesn't mean that as a partner I didn't have fun. I really enjoyed the entire show. So kudos to the Blankets team. Asanteni sana. Hoping to partner more. Just hope budgets come and everything is in order, but thank you.
Thank you so much for that. That was beautiful. Not only are they strong, capable women, they're also kind and caring. We've got, yes, go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Eli. I'm an editor at MediaMax. First is to congratulate Mudhoni and the team. 16 years is not a short time. You know, somebody who was born when you were starting is almost finishing their high school education. So, congrats. My question is futuristic. You know, all those times, 16 years, Blankets and Wine of today is not the Blankets and Wine of 16 years ago. So many things have come. You've introduced new things. Onja Onja now, Kenyan summer, and so many things in between. My question is, what's the thought? What goes into you? How do you think it through when you're introducing new things? Because they say in everything we do, it's a risk. Even waking up in the morning and getting out of bed is a risk. So what are some of the risks that you've taken to bring Blankets and Wine this far? And going into the future, because I know you have so many things lined up for the future, you have your plans. How do you think them over? Do you have a team that helps you, quote unquote, to think? What goes into that process and realizing it and making it happen and taking in the challenge and the criticism that comes after that? So what goes into you and what risks have you taken thus far? Thank you.
Thank you so much. First, thank you for being here, and thank you, Agnes. That was so kind, and thank you. Yeah, this is great. I agree with you. Everything is a risk, honestly. Even coming this morning is a risk. I was talking to David this morning, and I was like, oh, I can't do it. And he's like, you can do it, you can do it. It was very encouraging. He's on our advisory board, and actually he helped me write the first business plan on a serviette. So shout out David, David the Great. Now, I think the biggest risk, I'll really let Justine and Michelle speak to kind of the other risks, but I will speak to kind of the artistic risk. The risk is showing up. The risk is imagining. The risk is saying we're worth it. The risk is saying Kenyan cool is actually the coolest cool that ever existed, and that you can count on it and you can bet on it, and you just need to experience it. Like, I can't explain to you why Miondoko is a hot style, but when you dance it, you'll understand. That's the risk, is championing a thing like Kenya that wakes up every day to remind you that it's out to get you, The risk is being visible. The risk is sitting in a family meeting where people are counting. They're like, if there were 20,000 guys, and guys were like, everybody was like paying 5,000, these guys, they made like 100 million, Why is your car like that? The risk is showing up. The risk is doing the work. The risk is believing that it's worth the work. It's actually, there is no guarantee. There is no guarantee that Kenyans one day are going to look at themselves as the worthy, amazing people that they are. And the risk is that we may do all this work and in the end, it won't count for anything, right? It'll just be like, so when is Burna Boy coming? That's the risk. That's the artistic risk. But we take the risk, and I feel motivated to take the risk because it's mission. It's mission. It's got to count. I've got to count for something, I also know, because of the spaces where I move, just by being Kenyan, I'm automatically cool. They just think, already they're just like, oh, wow. Oh, you guys have such great runners. Done. Anywhere you are in the world, you just say you're a Kenyan, someone is going to compliment you on your runners. Have you ever gone to Iten? Can you run even 1 centimeter, live 1 kilometer, right? So for me, there's that feeling that there is something inherently valuable about being a Kenyan, and there's something inherently valuable about being an artist from this space, and there's something inherently spiritual about belonging to the place that formed human beings in a world. And I mean, earlier this year, I'm a TED fellow. I was at TED, and I was really in the room with the makers of the tech, the dystopian futures, the Sam Altmans and the Eric Schmidts, and they were telling us their most dystopian dreams and what they're really going to build, and really the idea of eliminating the human being from the equation. It sounds insane, but then you sit there and you listen to them, and they're like, but that's literally the dream, and that's what they want, and they're not mincing their words. So the risk for me being like, so the thing called human, we have to claim space for that thing called human, and we have to preserve the space for that thing called human. And I I feel kind of sad saying this because I know this footage will be useful in the future when guys are talking about, but people were talking about making space for human beings, you know? But by the same virtue, I'm sitting there with Sam Altman and I'm like, oh, but Sam, you're just a guy who thought about how to make a machine better, and then you took a risk and you taught yourself how to do this thing. And you're not superhuman, you're just a guy, the way I'm just a chick. So I do it because it can be done. I do it because I want to do it. I do it because it's mission that we do it. And I do it because, like, it's also fun. It's fun making this thing work. It's fun figuring it out. It's fun making a space for fun. It's not always fun, but, you know, I hope that's given you kind of the philosophical. Then maybe I'll let Justine talk about kind of like other kind of risks. There are many.
I'll speak to operationally because we're in a place where we are trying to scale the culture in a limited infrastructure, right? So we have literally no venues that we can use. So we are trying to bring things in. We are always bringing, power, anything. Like the thing is bare. There's nothing that supports us. We bring the toilets. We bring everything in, right? Which is at a very intense financial risk, right? And we're hoping that the audience will, buy the ticket, right? And at the same time as trying to also commit to that risk and be able to say, okay, the risk is worthy, as what Muthoni has mentioned, but then the audience is also not taking in the risk with you. We're all in this experiment together, right? If we're able to say sold out in 2 months to the event, your experience is better, right? So, and also, we have no systems like mass transit. We have 10,000 people who need to go home at the same time. How? Like, there's network, you can't call an Uber or a taxi because the network is down. So I think that's a big risk that we take because the culture is at the point where it needs to be scaled to the next level, but the systems are not there. They're not at that level. They don't consider this as a worthy cause. So that's a big risk that we take.
Hey, Muthoni umenitouch sana. Walikuambia they want to eliminate the human. So, guys.
I'm really not lying. I really think everybody should watch Sam Altman's talk at TED this year. When he was asked about his kid, Sam just had a kid. And it's like, kind of, what do you aspire for your own child? You really need to listen. It really is true. The thing that they really want to replace is the human being in this, anything that a human can do. Put a machine that will never complain, that will never ask for overtime, that will never say it's tired, that it'll never say that it wants to a mental health day. That is the vision. They really are building AI companions. They know that there's a loneliness epidemic. Instead of saying, get out there, talk to somebody, figure out how to communicate, there is a loneliness epidemic, right? They're building AI companions that then encourage you to commit suicide. It's really real. It is not by mistake. It is by design. So that's a real thing. That's a real thing.
I think that's insane because Kenyans, we are the blueprint in the sense that weren't we just cracking up the other day that this AI female musician that is so amazing, anaitwa nani? Zinia Monet. So, and Zinia is already making her mark. Obviously, it must have come from, because Zinia is not a common name. But if you think about it, you love Zinia not just for her music, but for who she is, what she posts, and covers that she does. But as an AI musician is not a human being, so there's nothing you're connecting to. So at the risk of all of that being replaced by machines, what do we have left? And I think I'm seeing more the value of a space that encourages, encourages us to be human, to connect, to feel, and to just experience being alive. Divi, I see you have the mic.
My name is David Mureithi, aka DJ Delight. I want to make a comment and then ask a question. I'm coming forward so you can get my best side and post me on your socials. There's an origin story Muthoni has not told. She said it very quickly. In 2018, Muthoni calls me. 2008. Memory. She called me and says, hey, David, hi. I have an idea. Please come and pick me up. I want to take you somewhere. I said, where are you going? Just come pick me up. We're driving. She starts talking. You know Modoni can talk, right? And she talks at the speed of light. And ideas are just... Luckily, I deal with creative. So I said, okay, let's go. So we go to the famous Tiana Spa and in Garnested. She says, okay, so there's this place. And all it was just, it was a spa. Then there was just land and there was a kahil. That's all I remember, that kahil, like a mound. She says, so my vision is, so we put this there and then like a stage and then people come here and then we perform and then we'll have like an Afro artist and a DJ and an MC. And we'll call it Blankets and Wine. I said, wow, okay. How you going to finance and everything? Yeah, she said, okay, yeah, that's the thing. So let's talk about that. And we drove to Muthaiga Mini Market, started a cafe, asked for a napkin, serviette, and wrote the first business plan for Blankets and Wine. The first Blankets and Wine had 100 people who were like, oh my God, to make. The second Blankets had 180 or something. The third, 108. The third one had 400 people. And suddenly we had outgrown the space. And we're like, when you start talking about risks and infrastructure, there's also the risk of being too popular and the infrastructure not matching sometimes. And we're like, oh my God, security, you know, and then things moved. And Blankets has evolved over the years. First of all, when's the documentary coming out? Anyway, on Netflix, by the way. So when you see some challenges, I've been an event professional for 37 years. I've done events where stages have collapsed 2 hours before doors are about to open and you're expecting 25,000 people in Kisumu. Some of you might know what I'm referring to. In Kisumu. You know Nairobi is different, but in Kisumu, you don't want to mess things up at the door. Do you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Yet we pulled it off somehow. And that's the challenges of productions. You can plan everything, look at every scenario, but something can happen. The question is, how do you respond to it? And that's the most important thing. And I think, and I'll talk in a very biased way because I do sit on the advisory board, but Blankets has come through over and over and over again. Has it been perfect? No. Have they learned from it? Yes. Do they implement immediately? Yes. So I think as Kenyans, first of all, there's nothing like Blankets in the whole region. In fact, I would even say in Africa. I've gone to a lot of, there's nothing more consistent. There's nothing like Blankets in the whole of Africa. Absolutely nothing. Blankets is a goat. Blankets is Kipchoge. Blankets is Kipyegon. As Kenyans, I think we have a duty of care to support our own, as we say, and stop bashing. Yes, you can criticize, but be constructive. So that's my comment. Yo imeisha. Question. On Jaonja stage, I put that out as a question. Fantastic. I think as a DJ, more power. In the future, is there going to be another stage? Like another, but anyway, like, I don't know. I don't even know what to imagine. Like a fashion stage, for example, showcasing Kenyan fashion every 1 hour. There's a fashion show, you know, or something like that, some challenge like that. Yeah, I'll charge for that later. Is there like some wild idea that you're cooking? You don't have to say it now, but just say it's cooking and then leave tension in the room.
Thank you, David. Yeah, and I really appreciate that. Yeah, because in fact, David was one of the first adults who like validated this artistic dream, and I really appreciate that. Like, yeah, your daughter was 1, yeah, and now she's going to uni. It's crazy, she's just gone to uni, yeah. Yes, in fact, that's half the problem when we are dealing with the curatorial team. It's always there's more artists to program than space on the stages that we have. And there's also some artistic expression that we know wouldn't work given this other buffet, given where the taste of this audience is. And this is actually how festivals evolve. You keep building specialist stages. If we want to have something that's more eccentric and more, you know, you want kaboshi, and you also you want to have like this sort of Sudanese funk band. I understand that from a taste perspective, that might not sit well with some of the programming that exists, but we want that. We're like, yeah, that thing exists. That's an African expression. That is an authentic expression. And so the intention is to go kind of building more specialist stages and like more specialist experiences. We've also had that thought of, kind of like, how can you have pop-up music? There's a question dancers have asked us perennially, how do we include dancers? And we're like, indeed, how do we include dancers in a way that is useful and is true for the art form, and not kind of like as an afterthought to like a filler space in between changing artists, put some dancers to entertain people, but really kind of think about it. So those are exactly the challenges. Artistic challenges that keep us going, but then also there's the realities of where we are. Like Justine is saying, we have limited infrastructure. Like pretty much, if you want to do a 2-stage edition, we are at the venue in Nairobi that can do that. Pretty much. So there's always this question, the artistic tension. What do you put on? How do you survive today so that you can get to that future that you're intending to get to? And how do you do that with as much integrity as you can, right? The thing that is for today, how can you serve it in its best variation? And then hopefully, you do enough so that you get to your next step. But certainly, that is the ambition of the festival. And there will be a time when we'll have to have our own home, a space that we can design in our image and likeness and can keep growing and can keep growing. We've been to festivals where there's like 13 stages, and then you can welcome 200,000 people, in one weekend. That's a thing that we've seen experientially for ourselves. So it's not like it's angels who came from the sky and did that. It's just the combination of the intention and the financial resources, and then time, just the function of time for us to get there, but for sure.
Thank you so much. David Murithi is a great supporter, and like he's just, when it comes to creatives and the creative arts and creative entrepreneurship, he's just been such a great resource and such a great supporter and such a great pillar for a lot of people. So thank you. It's good to see you still looking the same as you did years ago, and asante. We've got some questions that have come in from you guys through the link. There's a question about the last event, about crowding. Just a lot of crowding in the spaces, and the question is there something that you're actively doing to manage that? Is the venue, have you outgrown the venue? Is there a venue that can handle that kind of crowd? Or, yeah, what's happening around that?
Shall we take that collaboratively? Yeah, okay. Okay, so the first thing is, in fact, to be honest, we haven't achieved the capacity of the existing venue. We actually haven't hit capacity. Yeah, even December last year, we haven't hit capacity. What we have is a floor planning challenge. That's the task that we've taken. And so, yeah, we've reached out to some, there's an architect, there's a civil engineer, and an electrical engineer to kind of help us reimagine the space. Because it's true that there's enough space from what we understand about the acreage and other events that happen there is enough space. It's actually an event that they have 65,000 people on the site that we are on. Now, the thing about it is floor planning. This is why I'm saying it's going to get uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for us. Like Justine was alluding to, there are some things that you can change in the venue, and there are things that you can't change in the venue because it's a government institution. It's not your shamba. There are things that you can do, and there are things that you cannot do. So the question becomes, how do you optimize what exists? And some of those strategies to optimize is what we're going to work through, because for example, partners really love to be where people are. But if you prioritize people, right, then you can't have those tents there or those structures there. And so you have to find a new imagination because you want to keep the partners. And so you have to ask, what does that thing really fundamentally solve? And what's a more imaginative way for them to get what they need and within the confines of the space that you have? So the short answer is no, we're not leaving Kasarani. The immediate answer is we're bringing in some external eyes to look at the space with us and kind of help us think it through. This is actually a great season to look at that space because it also has some challenges. Like it has flooding challenges, like there's some areas which flood, so it limits you from what you can do. But I think this is really why I was saying, and Justin really can speak deeply to this. When the festival grows, there's just an operational intelligence that has to develop, and then you just have to, you step up to it, and then there's some decisions that are tough, and then maybe it's like, and so then people who are used to things in a certain way won't get things in that certain way, but it creates a better outcome for everybody involved. And then over time, they adopt the behavior, and then that thinking seeps into the industry, and then it starts to become commonplace, right? So, just expect a more optimized floor plan.
Another thing that I want to point out that I heard from that answer that she said at the beginning is that we're bringing in a structural engineer and a civil engineer. Guys, blankets and wine. There's jobs for engineers, for influencers, for musicians, for taxi drivers. I think that's such a beautiful thing. Like, structural engineers and civil engineers are still going to play a part in this arts event. I love it. We have another question here. It's a ladies' affair in a men's field. How have you ladies managed to maneuver? Thank you, Hiribe, for laughing at that joke. Guys, I'm really funny. Thank you. Again, ladies in a man's field, how have you managed to maneuver?
I guess, I don't know. I would definitely say it's definitely a man's industry, and you have to, I think there are some levels of yourself that you find in this space that you didn't know, that when you're having a conversation and it's like you're being mansplained to something and you're like, are you sure? And you're like, you're going to mansplain and you're going to explain until I am satisfied with the answer. So there's definite a sense to fight that it's not in tune to you, but then you have to do it. And it's been so difficult to, have to learn a muscle that you don't want to do. It's not your nature to fight, but then you're forced to fight. But it's what we have to do to get the thing moving, right? So we are championing also ourselves to find more women in the industry, to build more women in the industry. As you can see, we are definitely a women. So I think it's one of those things, it's like you have to fix it from within and find the partners that kind of understand, and also you just have to be the person who just keeps fighting until the point where this thing, you just had, And
there are quite a number of women in a lot of technical competence. Our stage manager, for example, at this edition is a woman we really admire and had wanted to work with a long time, and she was incredibly competent and just really good at her job. Nechesa. She's a great stage manager. And so like Justin's saying, it's this kind of thinking through, okay, now we have we're in a conversation with a really, another female-led crew that, does documentation and can do show running. So then, so you just kind of keep building in the competence sort of piece by piece, and then you hope that it develops, because it is still quite male. Almost all the owners of the gear are men. In fact, all owners of kind of like the big hardware for events are men. And so you're always navigating male spaces, male logic, male thinking, male shortcuts, attention to detail or lack thereof. But it's not all bad. There's also a lot of like really competent men who get what we're doing and get how high the stakes are and are like right there with you, like championing for their own success and also the success of the people. But it is entertainment. The ownership of entertainment is very much still a man's world.
But you're doing it. You show up and you do it, which is very important. There's a couple of questions around the alcohol issue and how you intend to resolve that. What's the plan to resolve the alcohol issue?
Yeah, what's the plan to resolve the alcohol issue? So first, we actually didn't have an alcohol issue. We had a system issue. It's quite crazy. It's quite crazy. I think we had something like maybe 30 million worth of booze on site. Or something like that. Yeah. So we didn't have an alcohol issue. What you had was a systems issue because then you have 30 million worth of alcohol on site, some of which you have bought, some of which is on consignment. So you have to ensure that you have sight of, so you build a tech system so it can support your manual system. Now, if your tech system goes down, your manual system should kick in automatically. When your manual system doesn't kick in automatically and you spend an hour or two doing the troubleshooting, then you find the problem and then you start bar service. But by then, 8,000 people are at the bar. And then the network is doing its thing, and then, everything just becomes slower. So then people have a really painful experience of that. Look, there's no getting around that. That is painful. We love our booze, and you want to have your drink, and if the bar service is slow, it does degrade your experience, certainly. So that's the thing to attend to, is kind of how do you build out a much more robust bar operation, and how do you really think through your layers of operation? Kind of what does your tech, what can you ask or task what can you ask or task your tech layer to do? And how do you build a much more robust kind of manual system? Because the truth is, it's somebody's business. You just want your drink, but the back end has to match. Otherwise, people are going to spend 1 month in reconciliation, trying to figure out who took what, where, how. Right? So there's businesses involved, and it's very uncomfortable. But for us, this is really a priority area to solve at the next edition, because we really feel very strongly the need to deliver that for consumer experience, but also because it's a revenue center for the festival. Part of being able to keep tickets affordable is being able to find multiple sources of revenue, so that it's not all on the consumer, right? I mean, I think we have to be also a bit cognizant of that. The beginning of the ticket is 3,000 shillings. You have like 16. I mean, I think the average ticket from the most expensive to the cheapest is like 4,125. I think, when you do from 3,000 to 5,000, the average ticket price is about 4,000 shillings, 125. You have 8 artists at Ondra. You have 8 artists on the live stage. If you divide that, you're pretty much paying 237 shillings per artist, if you really want to get granular with your money, because we've also seen people being like, but we paid them, and like, you paid 237 shillings to watch Thames, to watch Flyer, to watch Hiribai, to watch Ivy. That's amazing. To keep it at that cost, you have to find other ways to build revenue. So the festival has to figure out how to run a much more robust bar operation, and it's really painful for us. It was really disappointing. It was very frustrating for us not to be able to solve that in advance. We felt extremely disappointed, and we really shared the sentiment of the audience, that frustration. We really did, Now, this is not to avoid it, but I'm also going to say this is your opportunity to explore Ondra. Because I have friends, for example, who had no idea that any of that was going on, because then they drink Morats. So they just came to Ondra and they were like, oh my God, the Morats vendors were there. So they were just on Morats and Draba. Literally, they learned that there was a bar problem on Twitter, which is also a very other crazy thing, that we can all be in this place, but we're going to have very different experiences based on the things that we consume or we prioritize. Really. And it's a friend, when she told me this, I laughed for like 10 minutes, because I'm like, go figure. There's somebody who's so pissed they want to sue you, and there's this person who's like, bro, my only point is, can we have, and then our other friends were talking about the madafu. They told me that the madafu guy made so much madafu, his hand cramped. The guy who was at Soft Life doing, his hand cramped, and he's like, forget it. And he wouldn't sell them any more madafu because they were just like, yo, bring it to us. So when you talk to users, you just kind of find out all these other interesting things. There is a huge part of the audience that doesn't actually drink. They drink jaba. They drink water. They drink madafu. They're drinking other things. So for us, it's like, so build a bar operation that really speaks to all this intelligence, but also depressurize the bar. So like more specialist vendors, more wine vendors, more muratina vendors, more other things that can allow people to be able to access things. The short answer is certainly, it's a big priority area for us, not just for this edition, but year 17, we're really going to be focused on figuring out and delivering the bar experience, and that's that.
I just love that Blankets, honestly, over the years, caters to everybody. Because I'm hearing about Murat for the first time, but the first person I'm calling is my mom, because that's her thing. My brother is an unts guy, so Onja is like, no, just come to Blankets, just try, And I also think about, like, you've had the Mushrooms play, but then you've had Nikita Kering play. Nikita Kering was 7 years old when Blankets started, So I just love that everybody can have an experience at this festival that caters to them. A fashion lover can come and just shop and go, and that's it. We have a question here around how do you curate the artist lineup to make sure that whoever you choose is perfect for your audience?
Justine is throwing me under the bus. Okay. Bro, that's a hard one. We love artists. We love them deeply. And
there are so many.
There are so many who are worthy. And there are only so many slots on the program. So first, one of our fundamental philosophies is Blankets is only going to happen to you as an artist when it's your time. You literally never need to pitch Blankets. We see artists like pitching us and we're like, bro, this is one of those things for literally, don't call us, we'll call you. And it's true, right? There's like, it only happens to you when it's right for your career. And it happens to you when you have the right momentum, when you've built your community and you need that spotlighting on you and you're ready to transition from being famous in your community to kind of being discovered by people outside of your community. And that's why for us, 2 p.m. is as worthy a slot as 10 p.m. because 2 p.m., the people of that artist are locked in with that artist, and the people who came early are already locked into that experience. And I think one of the things I've really learned from just being a touring artist, it doesn't matter the time you play on the slot, it matters the show you play, because you only need one person to see that thing. You only need one person to see you and to write about you or to recommend you or to book you, or you know what I mean? So it's difficult. Having said that, we have a fundamental philosophy, so we have 4 slots pretty much on the program, at least, and this is for both stages. So you have your discovery slot, so those are artists who are, have picked momentum, but they're still locked within their community and they're ripe for discovery. You have your rising stars, so people who have done more, they're outside of their community and they kind of are on that propeller, and you kind of step in and like add that like jet fuel to that conversation. You have your legends, people who don't have anything to prove, they've done their work and they exist and we are thankful for their presence. And then you have your headliners, who are people who can really like, who are really moving the culture and who there's a very strong spotlight on them. And so that's how we curate the program. We also think around kind of gender balance, and we also think around representation, and and trying to get better and better at that. There are some structural bottlenecks around around gender and around queer institutions and just kind of support systems for artists who sit on the gender spectrum. So sometimes we don't have as much material that can be put on stage, or as many artists who are owning that and can be put on stage, but we really think about those things. And ultimately we think about it as a buffet, kind of like the breakfast spread that we put together for you guys. The things have to work together, you know, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And when it all comes together, it feels good. We have a curatorial team, so I sit on the curatorial team, but I am not the curatorial team. And then the curatorial team, they operate in not being known, and this is kind of the power, so that they're able to be honest and to provide insights. We are also very data driven, so we have access to data, and we know which artist and where the audience is, and kind of who is responding to what in the market. And then we kind of put all these things together on the curatorial team. Then I come and pitch it to the internal team, and I beg. And I beg and beg and beg, and sometimes there's strong resonance, and sometimes they're like, this one remove, this one put, and then we kind of negotiate that over a couple of weeks. And then our artist management team, you know, goes to market and negotiates with artists around the program, the fees. Yeah. So there is literally a science.
So can the community that you've curated online, contacts,
yes,
can they also tuma requests?
They tell us. That's actually one of the things we really like the most.
Yeah.
From the community, we've also found some real music people. So
Yeah.
we just call them. They're not on the curatorial team, for example. We just call them and be like, I'm this artist. And they tell you things, and you're like, perfect. You put that together.
Yeah.
What however, we're very sensitive to, right, is curation is not, it's not democratic. You can crowdsource, but it's not democratic, because all the things have to come together. The buffet has to buffet. All these artists put together have to be able to tell the story of that time, and have to be able to build momentum for each other as you go from performance to performance to performance, right? So whereas we really do, we listen, and we listen, I think the piece that we are much more proactive about is we listen. We listen. We know people with good taste. We listen to what they're listening, and then we kind of do all that steps of validation to figure out the program.
Yeah. So there's 2 more questions, and then I think we'll wrap it up. There's somebody who'd like to hear more about the Kampala and Kigali blankets. You know, it feels like it's just over there, but it would be great for like an exchange program, blankets and wine safaris. But yeah, tell us more about Blankets and Wine, Kampala and Kigali.
I think one of our, core challenges has always been kind of the Blankets brand. It's a festival, so it's not easy as making this bottle that can just be taken, or take the formula, apply it, and then it goes. So that's been where we've reached, where it's like, how do we make sure that this thing feels the same across all markets? And you know, previously we had a system where it was like, oh, let's franchise this, then somebody else runs it, but then that vision kind of got lost or gets lost. So we are in that state where it's like, how do we ensure that this DNA can also translate and still also pay homage to the culture and the artist in that area, so in that country. So we are in that space where we're like, how do we get to export this product because without, let's say, Bradford, we had to be involved, which now it ended up being and looking and feeling like blankets, right? And we are in the process of also building the team that the things in Nairobi can run, so that then we have that space to be able to be in those markets, learn what's happening, and also bring in the blankets DNA, and also have a touch of that energy of that city. So that's where we are at, where it's like, how do we get this as the same experience across all cities that we go to? Yeah.
Anybody wanna? Okay, then Blankets and Wine will be Blankets and Wine forever, even though we don't carry blankets anymore. There's a question around Onja and DJs. and how you introduced DJs onto the lineup and into the ecosystem of the festival. And the question is, how has that impacted the DJs? Have they given feedback about their careers after playing at Ondra Ondra? And I'll add another question to that because it's kind of, you added DJs after a few years, and now you have Ondra Ondra that's doing its thing. Reggae artists, will that be a thing? Somebody's asking about reggae artists, so yeah.
The way everything happens at Blankets very organically. So back in the day, between the performances, we'd have a DJ who'd play those slots. And no, first we didn't have any, and then we added that. I think in the Carnival years. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Mamba years, Carnival years, somewhere there we had Mamba year. No, it was Carnival years, I think so. And we hated it deeply. For one thing, we just found that there was quite dissonance between the acts, because then the DJs, would come on and there wasn't really we didn't understand the purpose. I think that was the main thing. We couldn't understand the purpose because we're like, if it's meant to be a thing in between the acts, first, how much time do we really need in between the acts? And therefore, is this the thing that we need in between the acts? And what actually needs to be happening in between the acts? One of the things that, tech teams also told us over years is we actually want kind of the silence. We want the space to be able to move. And so that was something that was weird. And then I think 2015, around Nouveau years, I think we really started to see something that we loved, which was the beginning of New Nairobi and kind of these producer DJs, right? And the earwaves and the Surajes and kind of this thing that hadn't existed in the market before, which is these guys are actually producing the sound. They're the makers of the sound, and then they DJ so that they can teach you the sound, which is literally all the big DJs in the world that we then kind of like admired or thought that they were like onto something. I don't know, whatever, the Black Coffees, the Calvin Harrises, they are producers, they are makers of sound, and then they are DJs to be able to teach you the sound that they have made, the Bodhisattvas. So we just thought that that was so phenomenal that now we have the producer DJ, and that's something that the festival felt like it could get behind because we're getting behind a maker of sound, right? In the same way the artists on the live stage are makers of sound. But we still were like, so then they shouldn't be an afterthought. They shouldn't be this thing that kind of happens in between sets and kind of, they should just have their own programming where they can experiment with the kind of sets that they want to do. Because if you think about like in the last edition where we had Mr. Lou and Akoth, they actually are, they're electronic music makers, they're producers, they're DJs, they're performing, it's live, it's quite interesting. It's not just a DJ set. And so we're like, these are performers and artists in their own full right, and so you just need to make a dedicated stage, and then you need to service it. Its own engineers, its own lighting, its own backstage, its own food service. It is a proper stage, and that's the thing that we've been developing. And so to your question about like reggae artists, and I guess ties in with what David was asking earlier, the festival already sees organically the space where we can go next. Who is the artist who is currently not being programmed? And so build a specialist stage for them, because tastes just kind of go expanding. And our happiness actually, when we're thinking about even movement of people, is we're always thinking about people as grazing. Our joy is if you do the ping pong. You watch two artists here, then you go and like spend 3 hours in Ondra Ondra, watch some artists do some shopping, I don't know, talk to somebody, oh my God, run back onto this side, watch some few artists, go back on that side, that idea of grazing. And so when we are able to add another stage, I think our joy will just compound, because it's then, and we see this like with some of the festivals that we admire, then you can take longer breaks. For example, you can take a longer break on one stage so that then maybe you can have a smoother transition for artists, but in that time people can graze and go to another stage and discover something else altogether, right? Because the idea is to expose you to so much different stuff on one day, and to blow your mind and kind of to just expand your understanding, you should watch this punk rock Kenyan band and be like, these are Kenyans? And then it's like, yes, these are Kenyans. And in that moment, your own understanding of what it means to be Kenyan can expand, you know? Or, I don't know, watch some funk sound that kind of trips your brain out and you're like, what am I actually watching? And in that moment, have an experience of, I'm experiencing something for the first time ever. I don't even know what I am currently experiencing, because there's some brain neurons that are being developed in that moment. There's a part of your brain that is connecting that has actually never connected. And that's what art does when it's being at its purest, is it literally can rewire your brain. And so yeah, there's going to be space for reggae. We love reggae artists. It's always just a question of the buffet. When and how does the buffet?
Wow. First of all, let's just give them a round of applause for giving us this space to have a conversation, for them to share, for you to share, for us to learn. I've learned so much. I have another idea for you. 10K step challenge at Blankets, because clearly you can ping pong between the stages and get your steps in, so fitness. And I love what you've said about, I think it really truly is the element of co-creation when you say it's so organic, because we are responding to people's experiences. If there's a lack somewhere, then that means organically this needs to happen. So that's where you come in. Like, you're really co-creating because it's just a give and take. It's so beautiful. Thank you so much for Blankets and Wine. Mimi, #1 fan, there from day one. I have performed, I have emceed, I have influenced, I have shot content, I have anything and everything, I have done it. Oh my goodness. I even used to do shows, my radio shows there. Like, it's such a beautiful, beautiful experience, and there's so much possibility. Anything can happen. You can be a structural engineer working for Blankets and Wine. Hallelujah. Thank you so much for coming. The media, the partners, KTB, the sponsors, British Council, the influencers and content creators, Terembe, ran 10 kilometers last Sunday, congratulations. To everybody who's been here, I see you, Kinawams. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for just being here with us and sharing the story of Blankets and Wine. I think that's the most important thing, that you're being invited to share the story of Blankets and Wine and to help create what comes next with the team at Blankets and Wine. So thank you, thank you. The artists who give us the music. It's not easy. And when Blankets started, we heard you say that Onja is great for alternative artists. When Blankets started, the Modhonis were the alternative artists. The Sauti Souls were the alternative artists. So just know that it doesn't have to be this massive plan of today, I must create this big thing. Start where you are, learn, iterate. Feedback is important. We are asking for feedback. Feedback is great because it's what helps the evolution, but then be sensitive in how you give it. Every single woman here, Michelle, asante. Justine, asante. Bodhoni, asante. Diane, asante. Please, let's give them another round of applause. We hope to see you at Kenyan Summer, December. Do we have a date? December 21st. That is the beginning of now Ujisahau mpaka next year. Please don't forget to take pictures with the lovely installation right there, the mauas. They're beautiful and they're for the pictures. There's merchandise that you can shop here, the Blankets and Wine merch. Tell everybody December 21st. We're going to have a fantastic Kenyan, that's the key to the Kenyan summer. Have a beautiful day. My name is Patricia Kihoro. I really appreciate this conversation. Thank you. Goodbye. See you soon.